Chapter 8:32. On the other side, in the makeup exam room, the others and the invigilator were also very restless, casting their gazes towards old Master Guang's head. Chen Guang indicated that his emotions were stable. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome pan before? Look again? I'll eat you up if you keep looking. Guys have anus, girls have anus too. But forget it, the makeup exam room was basically filled with guys. Their taste was a little too heavy. When the invigilator was handing out the papers, Dearsong's voice rang out in his mind again, using a demonic tone to tempt him. Sir, don't you want one? The best substitute examiner in history? It's free, it's guaranteed, and you definitely won't screw up. Chen Guang rejected Dearsong's temptation righteously. Thank you, I appreciate your good intentions. The old man has dominated the exam for 15 years. What kind of situation has he not seen? What happened yesterday was just an accident. I came prepared today. I'm especially upright today. Really? Really? Then it's a deal. If you realize later that you can't handle it halfway, I won't help you look for Nikoxi anymore. Chen Guang nodded. Of course, since I said it, I have to do it. With that, Chen Guang ignored Dearsong, focusing all his attention on the papers in front of him. Seeing that he was being stubborn, Dearsong didn't try to persuade him anymore, instead thinking to himself, although this guy had already become immortal, and because he was born in a family that was considered ordinary among mortals, causing his current personality to be especially commoner, that inexplicable determination in his heart didn't seem to be any different from before. No wonder Sister Lioli was so determined to accompany him in his madness. Chen Guang, oh Chen Guang, when exactly will you be able to truly control this heavenly holy grail and release Sister Lioli and me? Although I know that day may be very far away, I'm really anxious and looking forward to it. 2 hours later, Chen Guang didn't hand in his papers early this time, instead handing them in together with the others. He only wrote down the final answer at the very last moment before the exam ended. He stood up and subconsciously wanted to wipe his sweat, but he found that his forehead was still dry and his stomach was still burning. He had forgotten that because he was too focused, he didn't have time to let the chi sense of the painting scroll circulate on its own. In this state, he wouldn't sweat because he was using his brain too much. Speaking of which, he should give Wen a call and ask her if she was like him when she cultivated the painting scroll. In addition, according to the records in the painting volume, it seemed that one had to practice until the meridians of the whole body were completely connected. Then, with a little force, the whole body's tendons and meridians would move together with the internal strength. Lin Jingwei's mouth was wide open. He was so angry at these two scumbags that he almost fainted on the spot. He was indeed the one who was clicking the mouse at that time, but how could these two stop him? At that time, they were clearly immersed in the pleasure of tricking Brother Guang and couldn't extricate themselves. Chen Guang rubbed his fingers and turned to stare at Lin Jingwei. Lin Jingwei took a few steps back. Brother Guang, listen to me. Eat my 1,000 years of killing. If it weren't for Gao Ye, and Chen Guang had to save him some face, he would have been dried up on a tree. Chen Guang scanned the post briefly. After reading it, he was fuming with anger. *CK. If the old man hadn't passed the special training in One-Line Sky Language Master's Cup and mastered all the languages in the world, even if little Lin had enrolled him in a non-mainstream course, he would still be able to handle it. Otherwise, he would have become one of the haters in this post. He would either rely on underhanded means to get credits, or he would go after the girls in the Foreign Language Institute. These insults were really unpleasant to hear. Aren't you afraid of being slapped in the face? What kind of person do you think I am? This Manchurian, Tungusic, Celtic, and Tocharian language was a piece of cake, all right? Luckily, the school doesn't have a minority language like Buramulu. Otherwise, I would have made you frogs at the bottom of the well kneel on the ground and sing, "Conquered." Forget it. I thought it was a big deal. It's just a small problem. Let them do whatever they want. They won't cause much trouble. They'll settle down after a while, and they'll be fine by the time the final exams come. Chen Guang forced himself to calm down. He flipped through the post as he spoke. Sun Xiaoxuan asked tentatively, "But, how are you going to pass the exams?" Chen Guang shrugged. "I'll just take the exams." It doesn't matter. I told you, as long as it's a foreign language institute course, I'll apply for it. Although the courses I'm applying for now are a bit harsh, there's no difference in essence. He was being polite. He didn't even say that he could apply for any foreign language on earth. Lin Jingwei, Sun Xiaoxuan, and the others had their mouths wide open. They were so shocked by his inexplicable self-confidence that they began to doubt their lives. Thinking back to yesterday's lunchtime performance, could it be that this time he also had real skills and wasn't bracing himself to brag? As the saying goes, a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a different light. Brother Guang, it's not enough for us to look at you in a different light after this summer vacation. We'll have to blind our eyes to look at you. After reading most of the posts, Chen Guang didn't want to continue to be annoyed. The most annoying thing about keyboard warriors was that they would criticize you on the internet. You hated them to the core, but they just had to hide on the other side of the internet cable. You couldn't find them, and there was no way to crawl over the internet cable to attack them. If you really wanted to fight, they would just hide underground. So, since there was no way to let those haters see the power of his fists, it was better to just ignore them. He threw his phone at Lin Jingwei. Forget it. Let's go for lunch. I still have to read later. Lin Jingwei raised his hand to catch it, but his fingers slipped. He could only touch the phone with his fingertips. Then the phone bounced off his hand and fell into Yuanming Lake. Lin Jingwei exclaimed, "What the F***CK? Chen Guang shrugged. Are you blaming me? Do you need me to go down and pick it up for you? The fee is 5,000 yuan, no bargaining." Lin Jingwei hesitated for 10 seconds, then shook his head helplessly. "Forget it. I'll go buy the rice mix." "Why don't you use it?" "My family doesn't allow me to use it. You know." "All right then." Chen Guang curled his lips. If the impact of this matter was limited to the school, perhaps Chen Guang would really treat it as nothing and laugh it off. Before they reached the dormitory, Dong Xuebing received a call from Tianguang Agency. It was his publicity and public relations manager, Lu Xiaoyang. Chen Guang picked up the call. "Report to the higher-ups if there's anything. Dismiss if there's nothing else." Lu Xiaoyang screamed. "Boss, this is not the time to be joking. It blew up. It blew up. D****. Don't be so flustered. What blew up?" Lu Xiaoyang continued to scream. "It all blew up." Chen Guang's face turned black. "Explain it to me in 3 sentences, or I will blow you up." Lu Xiaoyang finally calmed down. He swallowed his saliva and tried to organize his words before saying, "The news of you taking 8 minor languages as elective courses has been posted online. This is the first sentence. At least 80% of the mainstream online media have written articles about it. This is the second sentence. Most of them are about you. The rest of the replies are also about you." Hearing those words, Chen Guang's vision darkened. He had unknowingly created a huge issue for someone. Chapter 8:33. Is there anyone behind this? Have you found any evidence? Lu Xiaoyang swallowed his saliva. "My years as a top paparazzi were not in vain. My summarizing ability is not just for show. Coming up with a conclusion in 3 sentences, my boss is becoming more and more like a boss. I have been investigating for the whole afternoon, and I have not found any evidence. The company is already having a meeting to discuss this. We have also contacted many friends from the media and the public relations world. Everyone agreed that it might be because of your recent fame and positive reports. Whether it is the netizens or the media, there is a hidden, strong demand for negative reports about you. In professional terms, it is called the troll effect." What kind of professional term is that? It means that too many people are saying good things about you, and everyone wants to see you embarrass yourself. What a retard. Yes, it is. But the public opinion on the internet has already taken shape. We can ask some friends in the media to help us delete the articles, but it is like trying to put out a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. I am afraid you have to do it yourself and look for the elders above you. Chen Guang only thought for 3 seconds and rejected Lu Xiaoyang's suggestion. The internal force martial artist issue was not over yet, and the elders still wanted him to attract the attention of the public. Otherwise, they would have informed him long ago. If he was praised for his good deeds, it would be public opinion. In the eyes of the elders, it does not matter if it is good or bad, as long as there is popularity, it is a good thing. Things had already come to this, and they did not take the initiative to do anything. They must not want to interfere. Aside from that, Qin Guang also had a feeling that the old men might be conniving today. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion in just half a day, which even Lu Xiaoyang was terrified of. They might have turned a blind eye to it and wanted to test his ability as the chief of the Guangding General Bureau. They want me to handle it myself. That's right. That must be it. 3. Bullsh *T. Ha, old Jiang, you deserve this. Haha, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Old Chow, you did not expect this, did you? They are all mine. In a certain courtyard in Yanjin, the old men who had been speculated by Qin Guang were fighting each other. He was really thinking too much. Although the elders had planned to help him establish a positive image before, now that he was in power, the elders were not his personal nannies. It was impossible for them to ask about everything he did. Although this kind of thing was very popular on the internet, in the eyes of the elders, it was still a trivial matter that could not be brought to the table. They only paid attention to the big things and occasionally asked about the small things. Qin Guang himself was already a vice-ministerial level official. It didn't matter if he used forceful methods or let time dilute the impact, it was his own decision. You guys go eat, I have to go to the company. Qin Guang didn't have any good ideas, so he decided to go to the company. As he drove, he deliberated in his mind. He was the brand of Tianguang Agency. If his reputation was ruined because of this trivial matter, the box office of women, which Tianguang Agency had invested a lot in, might be affected. Moreover, if his brand was ruined, the development of the company would be affected, and all the staff in Tianguang Agency would worry about him for no reason. That was his money, which was not to be taken lightly. In fact, he was quite surprised that things had turned out this way. The media should have some understanding of his ability to control public opinion. It was impossible for those people to confront him directly. Maybe what Buttface and LV Xiaoyang said was true, there were many coincidences in it. Some of the media just wanted to catch up with the trend and didn't want to be left behind. They didn't expect the public opinion would be so explosive. Maybe they were also panicking now. At this time, it was not impossible to find the mysterious, relevant department to delete the posts and clean up the public opinion on a large scale on the internet. The advantage of this method was that it was very effective and could eliminate all the negative reports and comments in a very short time. The disadvantage was that the news report was deleted, but the impression in people's hearts couldn't be changed in a short time. In addition to the main report, there were countless communication channels such as forums, Tieba, Weibo, QQ groups, and WeChat groups. It was very difficult to clean up these channels one by one, and it was a waste of money and manpower. He also had to owe a debt of gratitude that he didn't know how to repay. God knew how many connections he had to make, but the effect was not guaranteed. After all, this was his own private matter, and it didn't involve others. Also, if he used the method of deleting posts, it would only make him look like he was hiding something. At the very least, before the final exams, he would have to prove that others were slandering him. In the future, when he wanted to overturn the case, not everyone would be able to notice the news of him being whitewashed. He could only hope that time would erase the impression in people's hearts little by little, which was very powerless. Therefore, deleting the posts for a while would bring endless troubles. So, except for deleting the posts, what else could he do to reverse the case as soon as possible? Being poor had its troubles, but it also had its benefits. After all, the barefooted was not afraid of wearing shoes. Even if he lost his underwear, it was just the price of a pair of CK underwear. Now, he was different from the past. He had money and power, but he had to be cautious and have many concerns. This was all the old man's small money, and the amount was too large. Like other companies, the market value would shrink by a certain percentage, and the loss would be in the tens of millions. Just thinking about it made his heart hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. The poor would face such an awkward situation after suddenly turning over a new leaf. Their minds were still calculating the accounts like the poor, but they were faced with the financial inconsistency of the rich, easily tens of millions of dollars. It was quite awkward. Maybe after a few years, he would be like those who played with the tide in the stock market and get used to the ups and downs, and then he would get used to this kind of thing. But now, even if he knew that it wasn't difficult for him to earn money, even if Tianguang brokerage lost everything, his net worth was still in the hundreds of millions, he still felt unhappy. The old man had been in the business world for more than half a year and had never suffered a defeat. What he put into his pocket? Not a single cent less. Whoever wants to ruin my reputation is equivalent to making me lose money, wanting my life, and becoming my enemy. With this thought in mind, he parked his car in the parking lot of Tianguang Brokerage's Lida building. Usually, at this time, all the employees of Tianguang Brokerage would have gotten off work, but today was a special time, and everyone in the company was working overtime to deal with the storm on the internet. On one hand, they had to connect with the major media outlets, and on the other, they had to work hard to contact a public relations company. Otherwise, they had to turn into a water army and try their best to turn the tide on the internet. Before the highest management of the company, which was Chen Guang himself, came up with a definite solution, this was the safest and least likely way to go wrong. At the same time, there had to be someone who had a clear and precise grasp of the public opinion, summarizing the current situation to perfection, so that when Chen Guang arrived, he could give a complete report as soon as possible. This would help the old CEO of Tuasho accurately grasp the current situation. This glorious and difficult task fell on the head of Tianguang Brokerage, the #1 paparazzi, Lu Xiaoyang. But the others were not idle, including the cleaning department, the security department, and the food department. The 2 treasures and 1 sugar department did not get off work. With Chu Hanji in the lead, the cleaning department employees were also sweeping the floor while browsing the forum on their phones. To put it nicely, they were doing multiple things at the same time. The other person in charge of the company, Tang Ying, even ran over from the hospital to take charge. Although most of her attention was spent on her own matters in the hospital, she was not very familiar with the specific operations and management of Tianguang Brokerage. After discovering that Chen Guang was quite good at making money and was not squandering like she had feared, she did not like to ask too much about the company's matters. But she felt that, as the executive vice president, she could at least boost the employees' confidence by taking charge in the company at this critical moment of life and death. At least, that was what she thought. In such a huge company, a few middle-level executives were sitting in the big conference room, each busy with their own work, exchanging opinions from time to time. Yu Hong was making phone calls everywhere, mobilizing his connections in the country. The marketing manager, Fang Tianyu, was furiously scanning the news. Other than observing the public opinion, he also had to come up with a marketing plan in his head, thinking of ways to turn passivity into initiative. The finance manager, Su Li, was also holding a phone, contacting one person after another in charge of the marketing account and the head of the Internet Water Army, bargaining, striving to achieve maximum control over the public opinion with the least amount of effort. The operations manager was not in the conference room, but was outside accompanying Tang Ying as she walked around. The one who had the hardest time was the publicity and public relations manager, Lu Xiaoyang. He had to find contacts everywhere, and from time to time, he had to summarize the information sent to the company's office software from various departments. Today's incident was within the scope of his publicity and public relations department, so he had a great responsibility. Chen Guang walked into the office with a solemn expression. In fact, he was quite annoyed at this moment. If it weren't for this incident, he would have been happily studying at home. He had rushed here from school, wasted 2 to 3 hours, and obviously, they were trying to keep the old man busy. Okay, everyone sit down. 3. Manager Lu, tell me about the current situation. Chen Guang wanted to say butt face, but this was a very formal and serious occasion, so it was better to save some face for him. Lu Xiaoyang sorted out his thoughts, stood up, coughed lightly, and began to speak to the laptop in front of him. About 10 minutes later, he had roughly analyzed the current situation on the internet. He was really a professional. In less than 10 minutes, his summary had taken care of all aspects. The specific content included, but was not limited to, which information platform had the hottest discussion about this incident, the approximate number of news reports related to this incident, the position of these articles, and the popularity of the comments below. Preliminary estimates, the general proportion of people who were flaming Chen Guang, the attitudes of these people, the number of people who supported Chen Guang, whether these people showed any signs of turning from fans to haters, and how much the change was. The age and gender composition of the fans and haters, the analysis of the potential motives of the haters and news writers, and so on. As for Lu Xiaoyang's reporting work, it could be summed up in one word: high-end. Chapter 8:34. In summary, this incident started with a post on the boss's school forum yesterday afternoon. Through the active participation of Gokyo University's internal students, it gradually became more popular. Then, earlier this morning, on today's front page app, a review editor was the first to expose this incident. His position was neutral, and he simply reported this incident to verify its authenticity. 5 minutes later, an article with a slightly combative stance appeared on today's front page. Half an hour later, major web portals, including Little News, Penguin News, Daily Express News, and so on, followed suit. Although these articles do not have an obvious rhythm, there is a very vague derogatory meaning between the lines. The biggest problem isn't the articles written by these media people, but the netizens who followed the posts. Only a small portion of them are the boss's fans and supporters. Most of them are using this incident to attack the boss. For example, this person wrote, "Chen Guang became famous too quickly, and now he's inflated." And this, "Baldy Chen Guang, brainless, pretentious, heartless, despicable." Ahem, you don't have to read out all the words that scolded me. Chen Guang coughed. He felt that Lu Xiaoyang was using his position to get back at him. He must have been looking for a reason to scold him, but he just didn't have the chance. Forget it. Seeing that you've done well today, I'll forgive you for your wrongdoings and let you off the hook. At this moment, his heart was filled with happiness. The ancients didn't lie to him. There was strength in numbers. Having the help of a team was much better than having to fight alone. All right, I'm clear about the situation now. Next, Voldu. Chen Guang led the topic to Yu Hong. After the middle-level executives finished reporting, Chen Guang had a clearer grasp of the situation. Lord Guang expressed that the situation was a little troublesome. Indeed, as previously analyzed, there really wasn't anyone behind this incident. It was completely a natural situation. This was the most troublesome part. Public opinion and public relations might seem simple, but it was something that required a lot of skill. For example, every time a famous director in the country released a new film, he would find someone to argue with and use his fame and the reputation of the person he argued with to hype up his new film. He had tried this method many times over the years, and the results were excellent. But this time, when he repeated the same trick, not only did he not get any support from the public on the internet, but he also attracted a lot of criticism, and even the box office of his movie was affected. Why did the same move work so well in the past, but not now? Mastering the techniques of writing and arguing, how to express one's views on Weibo, every sentence, every word, and every line contained a great deal of knowledge. When it came to the timing of a catfight, every word and sentence of a catfight on Weibo, the effect expressed by a single sentence was often the result of a difference of 1,000 miles. For the sake of his new film, the famous director had secretly torn apart another well-known popular female star who had no acting skills. This time, he had earned a reputation and made the popular female star take the blame. Moreover, it was only an insinuation, and no one could refute it. Of course, it could also be because he was a veteran in the industry and had a high status, so they let him have his way. Then, the second step was to tear apart the university, dragging the famous university with him to be the scapegoat, and then continue to hype up the popularity of his movie. Unexpectedly, this time, he had made a wrong move, and his trick was seen through. The popularity of the movie increased a little, but his bad reputation was even worse. Now that the movie was released, he put on an attitude of being the most powerful and continued to tear apart the cinema chain. Well, it was the home of Qin Guang's old acquaintance, Little Kong. This time, it was even worse. He did not expect that silly Little Tsong was also a canon. The moment the famous director made a move, he immediately responded. Although Little Tsong was full of black marks on the internet in the past, and everyone scolded him when they saw him, this time, because of the famous director's repeated underhanded methods to hype up the movie, everyone was extremely fed up with his catfight routine. The fame of the movie seemed to be a little better, but it was also a lot of curses. The famous director went for wool and came home shorn. Little Tsong, who was amenable to coaxing but not coercion, directly cut the screening rate of his new movie to almost zero. Although there might be more to this matter, so far, it seemed that the famous director had suffered a huge loss. This kind of thing could not be said who was right or wrong, it was only judged by the results. In order to promote the movie, the famous director had used all kinds of methods, but he lost his reputation and money because he did not grasp the scale and skills of public opinion well. At the same time, Chen Guang's current situation had a similar effect. If he wasn't careful and made a wrong move, it would probably bring a long-term damage to his reputation. Chen Guang frowned and began to think about the main attack points of the online haters. In a sense, he was a very lazy person, and he really did not want to waste his brain on these things. These kinds of complicated things were not his specialty. But this time, as the leader of the company, and the only celebrity IP in the entire company, he had to stand up and make the decision. First of all, he had to grasp the core contradiction. What on earth were these people scolding me about? Chen Guang looked at this line of words in the summary report written by Lu Xiaoyang in front of him. Most people think that an omnipotent Superman cannot complete the studies of 8 minor languages in a dignified manner. With this as the core contradiction, they think that he is either playing to the gallery, disturbing the campus, and destroying the peace of the century-old Gokyo University, which will seriously affect the order of the school, or that he planned to use his advantage of being famous from the beginning to get some credits to graduate, but he did not expect that it would be exposed. Then he is tarnishing the school, tarnishing the education of China, which is extremely unfair to other exam-oriented students, or, as analyzed by another group of people, Gokyo University is one of the few comprehensive universities with a balanced ratio of male and female students among the national key universities, and the proportion of female students in the School of Foreign Languages is relatively high, and the quality is also relatively high. Although the omnipotent Superman Chen Guang behaves very well in other aspects, his personal life does not seem to be so clean. In addition to the intermittent scandal with Jin Shiriyue, he and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard, and even another beautiful vice president of the company, if there is no relationship between him and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard, and even another beautiful vice president of the company, no one would believe that there is no relationship between him and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard, and even another beautiful vice president of the company. I heard that he has many female confidants that he has yet to reveal. So, it is very likely that he really went there for the girls in the foreign languages department. The first half of Lu Xiaoyang's long summary was that no one believed that he could pass the exam normally. He must have some ulterior motive. The last 3 points of analysis were all extended from the core of the analysis. He could still express his emotions calmly in the first 2 points, but the third one was simply intolerable. Especially when Tang Ying, the beautiful vice president of the analysis team, was rolling her eyes at him, he couldn't just let this matter go. What kind of lousy logic is this? What kind of person do they think I am? I am such an upright person. Chen Guang slammed the table. Tang Ying rolled her eyes even more. In fact, she was quite guilty. Outsiders did not know much about Wu Tong, but she was clear that there was definitely something going on between Wu Tong and Chen Guang. Well, it seems that I am not really innocent. Why does no one believe that I really intend to take the exam and get some credits? It's just a small matter, but I have to make such a big deal out of it. This is ridiculous. Chen Guang slammed the table again. Across the country, There were at least 8 to 9 million, if not tens of millions, of students who signed up for elective courses. Signing up for an elective course was normal for others, but when it came to him, it became a big black mark. This matter was quite troubling for anyone. Okay, I know what happened. Everyone, let's think of a solution together. The time is now 7 p.m. We have to come up with a solution before 9 p.m., and then we will have a meeting to discuss what to do. If the situation does not improve by 10 p.m., and we can't come up with a solution, then we will first find someone to delete the post and ban it. Although there will be some consequences, we can't care too much about it. Chen Guang made the final decision for this meeting and then returned to his office. Tang Ying came in and chatted with him for a while, then she hurried back to the hospital. It was said that a research project she had been involved in was about to produce results, and she was actually quite busy. Sitting in his office, Chen Guang first browsed the internet for some news. He really could not come up with any good ideas, so he simply gathered his thoughts and took out the next course and began to study. When it was 8:40 p.m., he stretched and stood up from his leather chair. He stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window of his office and looked down at the people and the endless flow of cars. He felt a little emotional. In the past, he would not care about these rumors on the internet, but now that his family and status were not the same as before, he had fetters in his heart, and he could not bear to part with the glory, splendor, and wealth. He was no longer alone, but the brand of his company. He could not help but care about these things. During this period, he even received a call from Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage, asking if he needed their help to clean up the situation. Chen Guang shook his head and refused. There was essentially no difference between them and him looking for help. You can't just ignore this matter. You can't let this situation continue to spread. You have been in the limelight recently, and if you don't think of a way to control it, people may continue to spread this matter, and then it will be troublesome. Let's not talk about faraway things. The movie will officially start shooting at the end of this month, and your scenes will probably be finished in about 3 to 4 months. After that, you will have to promote it during the Spring Festival, and it will be released in March or April next year at the latest. At that time, your negative news will seriously affect the promotion of the movie. Recently, people have been calling for people to boycott the box office because of various things. This is really not a joke. The power of the netizens is greater than you can imagine. Jin Shiyue said worriedly. Chapter 8:35. Jiang Yage also added fuel to the fire. Sister Shiyue is right. You invested so much money in women. You can't expect us to increase the box office, right? That would be so shameful. Our dear Guangguang, can I interview you? What were you thinking at that time? Although Sister Shiyue and I majored in music and performance and have never studied in a comprehensive university like yours, we have never seen anyone sign up for an elective course like this. There are 8 foreign languages. Chen Guang sighed. What interview? What could I think at that time? I just need a few credits so I can sign up for a few courses that I can definitely get. What's the big deal? Wait, what did you say just now? Jiang Yage was shocked. Jin Shiyue leaned over as well, thinking that she had heard wrongly on the speaker. A course that's guaranteed to pass? Chen Guang snorted. Of course, don't tell me you think I'm just messing around. You mean, you know all of those weird languages that are written in the news? Jin Shiyue snatched the phone and asked. Chen Guang said, yes, I know all of them. I'm not bragging. Don't mess around. You don't have time to learn these. Jiang Yage poured cold water on him again. Chen Guang didn't have the mood to explain to them, and he couldn't explain it clearly. Anyway, I know. I knew it when I was born. No, one day when I was struck by lightning on the road, I knew it. I know all the foreign languages in the world. The 2 people on the other side of the phone thought they were listening to a science fiction story, but his tone didn't sound like he was joking at all, but what he said was so ridiculous. After a long time, Jin Shiyue said, if what you said is true, I have an idea. What idea? It's about next week. I heard that there is a World Language Conference in Beijing. Recently, Solomon and I want to write 2 songs with some African elements, so we found a famous African composer. This is what she told us. World Language Conference? Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. He held the phone in one hand and typed on the keyboard with the other. A few seconds later, he saw the encyclopedia of this thing. The World Language Conference, also known as the World Applied Linguistics Conference, was a large-scale conference known as the Olympic Games of International Linguistics. It was held every 3 years and was a global academic event for applied linguistics. At this grand event, linguistic education experts from all over the world would conduct discussions. Not only would it reflect the current research hotspots in the discipline, but it would also record the history of the discipline's development. It would also be a window for the past host countries to showcase their research standards and cultural charm. That's right, we've also heard of something else. It's different from the past where it was just a simple discussion. In order to attract more young people's attention, the organizers of this year's conference in Beijing are even preparing to start a competition. When the time comes, it will probably be broadcasted live on Central TV's UNESCO channel. Master Guang's eyes lit up in an instant, just like a xenon lamp that had been illegally modified with a lens. It was dazzling. What the F***ck, it was as if the heavens were about to descend upon them to force them into a corner. This is the god of fate's favor. Is the bell of destiny my meat toilet? You're so good to me. I've just made a big fuss, and I'm still lacking an idea to turn things around. It turns out that you've already prepared such a big stage for me. You're just waiting for me to make a rallying cry so that I can go and show off. How can I make all the doubters shut their mouths and turn their doubts into worship? In this world, is there anything more straightforward than going to the World Language Conference to show off? There's a national live broadcast to begin with, so he doesn't need to do it himself. This is a heaven-sent opportunity that saves time, effort, and worry. Apart from that, little Tsong, who is having a great time arguing with the famous director, should also be getting a lot of flaming. He probably needs some other big news to divert attention. Isn't that perfect? The old man is here to give you another topic to talk about. This is great. He was instantly overjoyed and slammed the table. Actually, our composer friend was going to participate in this competition, but Jean Shiyue said again. Chen Guang's heart tightened. What's wrong? I heard that the organizer's budget is tight. After all, if they want to invite participants from all over the world to Beijing, there will be at least 1,000 of them. Each person's airfare, accommodation, food, and other expenses will add up to tens of millions of RMB. You know, this kind of academic conference usually doesn't get any strong sponsors. I'll sponsor. Without any hesitation, Chen Guang slammed his hand on the table and made the final decision. It wasn't that he was generous to the point that he didn't care about money, but his countless experiences in the past had taught him that these things might seem like burning money for nothing, but as long as he had his signature dish on the table, he would definitely make a profit. Furthermore, so what if he really made a loss? As long as the hype was good, through this conference, he would be able to use indisputable facts to announce to the world that the almighty Superman in front of them, Chen Guang, was not a guy with all brawn and no brains. He was the most powerful language master in the history of mankind. There was no language on this earth that he didn't know. Then, the god statue of the language master, the world in the cup, was about to appear. In terms of English alone, it was too difficult to gain widespread recognition and build up the image of a god in a cup. There was no quantitative standard for whether one's English was good or not, and it was even harder to gain recognition than playing the piano. But what if it became 4,978 languages? Who would dare to not accept it? Who in the world could be a match for him? Chen Guang would never have dreamed that a small matter like signing up for 8 minor language elective courses in school would lead to the opportunity to create a new god statue. This could only be said that he was destined to put on a good show. He couldn't defy fate. Most importantly, this wasn't an ordinary god statue of the world in the spirit-seeing cup. This was the first time he had the opportunity to establish a god statue of the second stage of the heavenly Holy Grail, the one-line heavenly cup. Although he didn't know what was special about the one-line heavenly god statue, it wasn't important. The power of the world in the cup was more than 10 times that of the first stage, the one-line heavenly god statue. He would naturally find out when the time came. I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich. After chatting with Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage for dozens of seconds, Chen Guang hung up the phone and walked out of the office in high spirits. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, come to the conference room. I have a big plan." The hundreds of employees of Tianguang Agency, who were working overtime until their faces were pale, were instantly invigorated. Fang Tianyu, who was scratching his head but still couldn't come up with a feasible and creative solution, was even more teary-eyed. "Director Chen, I really don't want to admit it, but when I see you in such high spirits, I suddenly have a pillar of support in my heart." Lu Xiaoyang was secretly hating that he had accidentally let Fang Tianyu take the lead again. Director Chen is mighty. Although he didn't know what ideas Qin Guang had, it was definitely a good idea to suck up to him first. Yu Hong felt a little awkward. After all, he was already so old and couldn't be as shameless as those two. Alright, don't be in such a hurry to suck up to me. Everyone, come to the conference room." Chen Guang waved his hand and rolled his eyes. He said, "Oh right, everyone has worked hard today. Other than the company's middle management, the rest of the employees can get off work. And this month's overtime pay will be increased by 1,000 each to calm down. Everyone can go home and explain to their wives and children." "Hey, Director Chen, single female employees don't have wives and children." A pretty female clerk teased. "Come to my office tomorrow to talk about life. It's really like what the rumors say. We have a perverted director." However, everyone knew that Director Chen was joking. He was very picky, and those who caught his eye were not just beautiful. Beauty was not enough, they also had to be capable. After joking with the employees, Chen Guang called all the company's middle management into the conference room. The chief of the cleaning department, Chu Hanji, was actually sitting in the last row. He held a small notebook in his hand and looked like he was ready for battle. Chen Guang didn't even want to ridicule him. Actually, after such a long time, the Guangding General Administration's employees in the company had already left and moved to the Guangding General Administration's office building on the other side. Now, the two treasures and one candy only had about 1/3 of the Guangding General Administration's underground gang members. According to Qin Guang's own thoughts, Chu Hanji should have gone there long ago. He didn't know what was going on in his mind. He was still shamelessly staying in his own company. It was obvious that he wanted to earn 2 salaries. How shameful! Alright, I have an idea. I just received news that there will be a World Language Conference in Beijing next week. You guys can find out what this conference is about. What I want to say is that they are going to organize a competition, but they lack sponsorship. My request is very simple. We will sponsor it ourselves and I will participate. If I win this competition, then today's problem will be solved easily. I can even turn passivity into initiative and turn all the negative information on the internet into flattery for me. Money has to be earned. Reputation, I also have to get it back. You guys have to think of a way to talk to them and get the whole conference into your pocket. We can't sponsor for nothing. How to use this conference to operate a good business model to make profits is your business. If it's possible, you guys should go there by tomorrow at the latest. Also, Old You, Old Fong, and Dog 3, you 3 better find a way to contact the conference organizer today and express our intentions. At the same time, you can also appropriately reveal my identity so that they won't have any thoughts of canceling the competition. Alright, dismissed. This was the advantage of being a boss. He could set the tone. As for the other trivial matters, naturally, he would let others handle them. After Qin Guang finished speaking, he planned to leave. Oh my, I really want to go home and read. Lu Xiaoyang hurriedly stood up and asked, "That, boss, although I'm not very clear about the specific model of the competition you mentioned, but since the conference is called the World Language Conference, there should be experts from all over the world, right? I heard that some people are born with the Broca area in their brains that is related to language learning is especially developed. They know dozens or even hundreds of languages. Boss, do we need to do something behind the scenes?" Chen Guang waved his hand heroically, and an extremely arrogant and confident smile appeared on his face. "I don't even care about you." Dozens or even hundreds of languages. It's not even enough for me, your boss. After saying that, he turned around and left without staying any longer. I can't take it anymore. I'm about to lose control of my pretentiousness. I feel like my whole body is about to burn up. Only knowledge can calm me down. Chapter 8:36. Until his figure disappeared into the elevator, everyone in the meeting room was dumbfounded. Chu Hanji was the only one who had the right to comment on Qin Guang's bragging. However, he couldn't say it because it was confidential. Not long ago, Qin Guang had helped Wu Tong arrest several World Shatter assassins during a piano performance in Beijing. At that time, Qin Guang's knowledge of Tubramuru, an unpopular foreign language, was classified as confidential. Only a few people in China had the right to access it. Because Chu Hanji was also in the Guangding headquarters and was loyal to Qin Guang, he was qualified to know about Qin Guang's matters so that he could cooperate with Qin Guang better. In his heart, he knew that Chief Chen might not be bragging, and victory was in his grasp. He even knew Tubramuru, which was used as a trump card by the World Shatter. It was only natural for him to know other languages. You people don't understand how powerful Chief Chen is. He had intended to take notes in his notebook, but he subconsciously wrote down a huge word that took up an entire page. This was handsome. When Qin Guang parked his car in the district's car park, it was already past 10 p.m. He held the cup in his hand as he walked along the district's walkway. The autumn wind blew on his body, and the streetlights on both sides of the road were dim, casting a long shadow on the ground. Qin Guang kept stepping on his own shadow, but he couldn't reach the end. He didn't feel tired, but he felt annoyed. Regardless of how others looked at him, he felt that he was different from the past. When he was poor and ordinary, he had ordinary worries and pain, and he always wanted to change his life, himself, and his family. But unknowingly, a few months had passed, and the cup in his hand had changed him too much. When everything was no longer the same, he would occasionally think of his ordinary self and miss the past. Being poor was good, but being rich was vexing. He shook his head and felt that this was a problem that needed to be treated. When he was down and out, he fantasized that he was omnipotent. But when he became rich, he would miss the carefree life. How could people do as they pleased? To live in this world, one had to deal with all kinds of people and all kinds of things. How could there be so many bad habits? He took out the key and opened the door. There were two uninvited guests in the house. They were Xianxia and Wu Miaowan, the two deputy directors who were supposed to be at the Guangding General Bureau. Xianxia was wearing a white chiffon short-sleeved pajama top, which was probably unbuttoned. Her lower body was also wearing a set of loose chiffon pajama pants, which looked a little translucent. However, she still had a bit of integrity, and she was still wearing undergarments. Wu Miaowan and Xianxia were about the same, but they were dressed in emerald green attire, which gave them a different kind of charm. The two of them had been busy for 2 days. The Guangding General Bureau seemed to have finally digested all the information they had gathered from the world of destruction. It was rare for them to take a break, so Qin Guang did not teach them a lesson. Instead, he looked at them quietly at the door. When his eyes were comfortable, he walked forward and coughed twice. I say, the two of you should control yourselves. Don't tear my sofa apart. Now that I've bought these 2 houses, they'll be mine in the future. Save me some energy. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan stopped what they were doing and sat down on the sofa obediently. Oh, the director has spoken. So scary, so scary. Xianxia chuckled. Wu Miaowan looked Qin Guang up and down. Wait, something doesn't seem right. Am I seeing things? She rubbed her eyes again. After a long time, she stared at Qin Guang and pounced forward. Qin Guang was ambushed by her. He leaned back and lay on the other sofa. What are you doing? Wu Miaowan pointed at Qin Guang's face in horror. Then she turned to Xianxia and exclaimed, Oh my God! This guy has inner force. He had it yesterday, but my brain was a little stiff at that time. I couldn't react in time. Xianxia's interest was piqued. She leaned forward and stared at Qin Guang's face. From time to time, she would put her hand on Qin Guang's pulse. He really has inner force. How? How did you do it? The two of them could not help but be shocked. Unlike others, they had watched Qin Guang practice the painting manual from scratch. Although this guy was strange and unconventional, and there were always some parts of his body that would mysteriously improve, he was still within the range of a normal human. But not long ago, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, when everyone was still in Utopia, this guy had recovered the memories of the Grand Magister Qin from his previous life. It was understandable that he had the power to destroy the world. After all, that was in his previous life. It was not surprising that a Grand Magister had such abilities. At that time, his body, especially his chest and abdomen, looked quite weak. He was a little stronger than an ordinary person, but he was still far from being able to practice inner force. But only a few days had passed, and this guy suddenly had inner force in his stomach. Look at his hands, his feet, his head, his waist, and the feel of his 8-pack. Cough, cough. In short, this guy had no shortcomings. He was perfect and flawless. This was ridiculous. However, Chen Guang didn't have the time to respond to Xianxia's words. Instead, he was looking left and right. He had a feeling that the two of them were probably using the pretense of being curious about his internal energy, but in reality, they were using despicable and wretched methods to seduce him. Look at these two. They're immoral. You know that I'm weak, but you're still crawling in front of me. Are you trying to test me? As it turned out, Wu Miaowan, who was crawling on top of him, was right in front of him. Her collar was wide open, and he could see straight inside. Wu Miaowan might not be tall, and her body was thin, but her pockets were full of goods. Because of her unguarded movements, 2 bright white hemispheres appeared clearly in front of Qin Guang's eyes. As she moved from time to time, her collar swayed left and right, causing the 2 indescribable dots to appear and disappear under Qin Guang's sharp gaze. Logically speaking, the combination of the green veil and Wu Miaowan's innocent expression that seemed to be focused on something else made it more tempting to commit a crime than not fully clothed. There was a charm in her innocence, a shyness in her charm, and a boldness in her shyness. It was rather indescribable. No, I can't take it anymore. I can't look anymore. With that thought in mind, Qin Guang turned his face to the other side. Sigh, there's a wolf in the front and a tiger in the back. It's impossible to guard against them. Wu Miaowan was already ferocious enough, but Xianxia on the other side was even more shameless. Her collar was even more open than Wu Miaowan's, and her posture was even more domineering. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing left. The undulating peaks and surging waves made for a beautiful scene. Alright, in a sense, the relationship between him and Xianxia had opened up to a whole new level. It was as if this was the first time he was able to look at Xianxia's tender body at such a close distance. It felt quite special. This was different from the time when Xianxia ambushed him while he was bathing. At that time, he was still guilty and didn't dare to look too much. Xianxia had exposed herself a few times, but most of the time, she had evil intentions and was after his painting scroll. At that time, he was guarding against her like a thief. Now, his mentality was different. Things were different now. He didn't have any psychological burden when he used his eyes to take advantage of her. He was just worried that his physique couldn't keep up. Back when he was refueling her in midair, he didn't have much time and energy to be intimate with her, nor did he have the time to savor her. Everything happened too quickly. Even now, when he thought about it, it felt surreal, like a dream. If he had the chance one day, he would probably be able to relive his old dream under normal circumstances. But looking at little Xianxia, she seems to be calmer than me. Her attitude hasn't changed much from before. It's a little hurtful and depressing. That's impossible. I'm a pile driver. You look like you've just been bitten by a mosquito. I can't help but feel that something's wrong. Alright. Let me get up. What's so strange about it? The old man can even learn magic. What's so special about inner force? When the old man was in the other world, he could read at the age of 1, communicate with the elements at the age of 1.5, recite spells at the age of 2, become a magic apprentice at the age of 3, an advanced magician at the age of 15, and a magister before the age of 30. All the cultivation methods in this world, whether it's my magic or the inner force in this world, are similar. As long as I want to learn it, it's as easy as blowing off dust. Chen Guang struggled to straighten his body from the sofa and said righteously. Compared to the past, Chen Guang had a new way of bragging in front of these two people. The genius great magician was always so unreasonable, so blunt, but without reason. I don't care if you believe it or not, I believe it first. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan almost believed it. Wu Miaowan pulled up his coat and continued to stare at his chest and abdomen. She gasped, This is the legendary innate martial sage body. Are you really a magician and not a warrior who cultivates battle energy? Chen Guang learned a new term. It sounded overbearing, but he didn't know if it was the innate martial sage body that she was talking about. However, it's definitely not an innate martial sage body. This is the reward for bringing you guys on a journey and fighting monsters in the punishment realm. How can you mortals understand my hard work and sacrifice? As for Wu Miaowan's rambling about battle energy, he decided to pretend that he didn't hear it. This girl must have gone to read some fantasy novels. Forget it. I have to give her a reasonable explanation. Chapter 837. Chen Guang stood up again. The aura of Grand Magister Right Chen was once again possessed by him. He walked to the window with his hands behind his back and took a deep breath. That's right. Two beautiful ladies, you didn't see wrongly. My body has undergone some changes, and it has been since a long time ago. At that time, I didn't understand the reason, but now I know. This is the legacy that my previous life, Right Chen, left for me in this life. Compared to ordinary mages, the biggest advantage of a Grand Magister is that he can turn his body into a vessel for elemental power. Every Grand Magister has a body that is perhaps unparalleled in this world. What's more, I, Right Chen, am a rare genius. When I died in my previous life, I had already broken through the shackles of a Grand Magister and became an existence equivalent to a god in another world. In other words, I am an elemental controller. I have the legendary sacred elemental body. The moment I recovered my memory in that world, the sacred elemental body that I obtained from practicing magic painstakingly in my previous life also awakened. After we left that world, my body completely became the sacred elemental body, which is what you see now. This body is probably the last treasure that I brought back from my hometown world. Sigh, in this world where magical elemental power is thin, my magic is completely useless. You guys are talking to me about the innate martial sage body that I don't understand. If I don't make up an even more awesome title of sacred elemental body, I won't be able to control the situation. Anyway, the already F***Ketup Dolua world is structured according to my thoughts. According to idealism, that world no longer exists. If I say that there is a sacred elemental body, then there really is one. Anyway, I've already talked about the Grand Magister. If I continue to bluff Right Chen, it would be more reasonable than the heavenly Holy Grail. At least there would be some cause and effect, and it would be easier for the two to be convinced. The same trick worked as expected. It worked again. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan were fooled by him. Great Magister Right, don't be sad. Don't you still have us? Wu Miaowan was so touched that she threw herself at Chen Guang. Xianxia also looked at him with tears in her eyes. Let bygones be bygones. Don't live in the past. Look forward to the future. Chen Guang nodded. That's right. That's why I have to learn the cultivation method of this world, which is inner force, just like how I studied magic in my previous life. But we want to learn magic. Wu Miaowan's evil intentions had never died. Chen Guang smiled coolly and said, It doesn't matter. Please take off your pants first and let the old man and your excellency have a deep exchange of body fluids. In this way, you will be able to feel the extremely thin magic elements in this world through the old man. Ahem, Mr. Director, please be a little more reserved. Xiao Miao Miao is still a child. But, aren't you two childhood friends? She's an adult when she's with you, but she's a child when she's with Wu Miaowan. She's causing trouble. Although Xianxia was quite magnanimous, she wasn't completely without her own thoughts. Chen Guang was anxious. However, he was just saying it. Although Wu Miaowan was bold with her words, he didn't know what kind of unorthodox methods she had learned from her master, Wu Qingming. She just had to keep him in suspense, making him feel like he could push her down in the next second. She seduced him in all sorts of ways, but he couldn't touch her even though he could see her. Chen Guang felt that Wu Qingming didn't teach her anything good. She must be using the unorthodox methods of a vixen to deceive men. Moreover, outsiders had been saying that his private life had been very promiscuous recently, and he was under quite a lot of psychological pressure. He would continue tormenting himself when he was free for a while. Alright. I know you're stingy, so I'm not in a hurry. However, Mr. Big Chrysanthemum Head, do you want to see what realm of martial artist you're at now? Wu Miaowan rolled her eyes. She knew that Chen Guang was feeling uncomfortable when she saw his excited yet reserved expression. She smiled and changed the topic, finding out what Chen Guang was most concerned about. As expected, his eyes lit up. Sure. But can't the two of you see through the realm of those who are weaker than you at a glance? Xinqin rolled her eyes in annoyance. Ordinary martial artists can do that, but you are cultivating the painting scroll. Your aura is restrained and condensed. If you don't take the initiative to release your inner force, I really can't see your realm from your appearance and aura. Is the painting manual that powerful? Qin Guang asked. Wu Miaowan said enviously, of course. Otherwise, why would the Wen family be able to roam the pugilistic world for so many years without being defeated? Even though they've been relatively lonely for the past few years, they're still one of the three great families that no one dares to look down on. Isn't that because of the ingenuity of the painting manual? That's right. You're so stingy, Big Chrysanthemum Head. You didn't teach us magic properly, and you didn't even reveal a bit of your inner force. Tell me, why are little Meow Meow and I so unlucky to have an ingrate like you? Compared to magic, Xinqin seemed to be more interested in Qin Guang's painting manual. It seemed that the two of them had different preferences. At the same time, Qin Guang also felt embarrassed by her words. He was a little tempted in his heart, but the painting manual belonged to someone else, and Wenwen only gave it to him because she trusted him. So how could he give it to someone else as a favor? You guys, don't make things difficult for me. Chen Guang was extremely frustrated. Alright, I know you're picky, but it doesn't matter. Cut the crap and make your move. Wu Miaowan bounced back and spun in the air before landing in a corner of the living room. She faced Chen Guang and got into a fighting stance. Chen Guang took a deep breath and circulated his inner force according to the painting manual's incantation, adjusting his qi. In an instant, he felt a warm current flowing from the depths of his dantian to his limbs and bones like water. Everywhere it passed, he felt a cool aura, especially in his limbs. He could feel his muscles bulging slightly. Although he did not deliberately exert any force, he could clearly feel that his strength was much stronger than the Qilin arm he once had. It was said that it trained the muscles, bones, and skin on the outside, while the essence, qi, and spirit were trained internally. Essence, qi, and spirit were a trinity. Even for someone without inner force, their mental state would change according to the state of their body and willpower. Therefore, martial artists usually used the external muscles, bones, and skin to describe their realm. It was precisely because after the inner force was generated, the qi would gradually grow stronger as one's skills became more profound. Whether it was when one was walking or deliberately circulating one's qi during a fight, different levels of inner force would have obvious effects on a martial artist's strength. The stronger one's strength was, the stronger the inner force qi would be. A martial artist's body would also undergo subtle changes due to the long years of nourishment from the qi. After mastering skin force, a martial artist's entire body would be enveloped by an invisible force when he stimulated his inner force qi. This force was as thin as a cicada's wing, but it could be manipulated at will. When faced with harm, it could not only slow down the impact, but powerful martial artists could even form a spiral on the surface of their body to block cuts and attacks. This was why skin force martial artists were almost invulnerable in the eyes of ordinary people. Therefore, in the past, Wenwen or Xinqin had the absolute ability to suppress Chen Guang, who was still an ordinary person at that time. Even without circulating their inner force, the two of them were on a completely different realm in terms of physical strength. Since mastering inner force, this was the first time Qin Guang had stimulated his qi in an attempt to fight. He could not help but feel a little excited. He widened his eyes and looked at Wu Miaowan in front of him. "Then I'm coming." Wu Miaowan nodded and clapped her hands. "Come on. It seems like this is your first time, and you don't look very powerful. Just attack me with all your might, and I'll test your strength. Don't hold back, or I'll be angry with you." "All right." As soon as Qin Guang finished speaking, he instantly appeared in front of Wu Miaowan and punched her abdomen with his iron fist without holding back. Seeing that she seemed to be quite confident, Qin Guang also felt that she was at the peak of bone force, and that he, who had just grasped the door, would definitely not be able to hurt her. Therefore, he attacked with all his might. Who would have thought that this punch of his would actually cause a sonic boom? Wu Miaowan's eyes widened as she exclaimed, "What the F***CK?" The momentum of Qin Guang's punch scared her out of her wits. Before his fist could even get close to her, her face was already bruised by the force of his punch. She did not dare to take it head-on like she said she would. She immediately gathered her qi, and her body became as light as a cicada's feather. She floated backward along with the force of Qin Guang's punch. Just as she was about to crash into the wall, she suddenly turned and barely dodged Qin Guang's punch. The force of his punch, which had lost its target, slammed into the wall with a loud, deafening boom. In an instant, a hole the size of a casserole appeared in the wall, kicking up a cloud of dust. "You're trying to kill me." Wu Miaowan landed far away, panting heavily. She was drenched in cold sweat. Qin Guang was also stunned. His fist was clearly more than a meter away from the wall, but this wall, oh my God, my wall. My newly bought house. My heart hurts. What the hell is this? Why is it that my fist, which I've just learned, is completely different from the two muscle gene martial artists I've met before? Am I that strong? Xianxia also pounced over from the side. She stared blankly at the neat hole in the wall and only came back to her senses after a while. She turned to look at Qin Guang and spat out a word, "Monster." "Hey, don't just complain about me. Hurry up and comment. What level am I at?" Qin Guang also poked his head over. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't looked, but his heart ached even more when he did. Behind the wall was his bedroom, and it seemed to be where the wall-mounted TV was. He didn't need to go in to know the situation inside to know that the flat-screen TV was most likely far away. Damn it, thank goodness this isn't a load-bearing wall. Forget it. That punch probably cost 20 to 30,000 yuan. At that moment, a wave of cursing came from the balcony upstairs. "What are you doing downstairs? Tearing down a building in the middle of the night? Can't you let me sleep?" Qin Guang, Xianxia, and Wu Miaowan knew they were in the wrong, so they shrunk their necks and didn't confront the people upstairs. It was a little too late. Chapter 838. After a long while, Wu Miaowan finally calmed down. She was still afraid when she recalled Qin Guang's punch. If she hadn't reacted quickly enough and used the Thousand Flower Valley's secret technique, wandering flower steps, to avoid the punch at the critical moment, she would have been seriously injured, if not dead. The feeling of being enveloped by death just now was not something to joke about. "You bastard, you really want to destroy a flower, don't you?" Wu Miaowan angrily knocked on Qin Guang's shoulder. Qin Guang was furious. "Didn't you tell me to give it my all? I thought, you're a bone force expert, and I've only just learned it, so I shouldn't be able to hurt you, right? I haven't even said anything to you, but you dodged without saying a word. Look at my wall, there's still a television on the other side. What a great loss." Wu Miaowan was furious. "You still have the nerve to say that? I told you to give it your all and you really did? Why haven't you been so obedient in other things? Besides, who knows why you're so strong when you've just learned inner force? This doesn't make sense." Xianxia explained to Qin Guang from the side, "Perhaps you can't blame Qin Guang for this. I saw that the inner force he used was roughly equivalent to the entry level of muscle force. The cause of this should be his physical body. It's his first time using a punch, so it's normal that he can't control his strength. This power is only muscle force? Chen Guang didn't believe it. He looked at Wu Miaowan again. Perhaps she was more authoritative since she was facing the power directly. Unexpectedly, Wu Miaowan thought about it and nodded. My dear, you're right. It's indeed muscle force level. Of course, you just learned the entry level yesterday, and today you've officially learned the entry level of muscle force. You're probably a once-in-a-thousand-years genius. Your family's muscle force can punch through a wall with one punch? I don't believe it. I'm sure I'm already naughty. You two are afraid that I'll become complacent, right? Chen Guang didn't believe it. Xen Qin and Wu Miaowan stared at him for a long time as if they were looking at a lunatic. They did not want to speak for a long time. Chen Guang felt uncomfortable being stared at by these two people's strange gazes. He said embarrassedly, Fine, so be it. You two have big breasts, so you guys have the final say. Xen Qin, nonsense, even the martial sage body can't surpass the level of Tendon Jing. It's impossible. But you know what? This is the scariest part about you. What do you mean? How am I scary? Wu Miaowan patted his shoulder and said in a somewhat dispirited manner, Think about it. You're only at muscle force now, but a single punch from you is enough to take my life. What would it be like when you've truly advanced to the same bone force as me and my dearest? Right now, you're just like a naughty primary school kid, but you have the strength to tear tigers and leopards apart. When you grow up, it'll be unimaginable. Xian Qi nodded as well. She felt a little speechless as she said, I never believed that a person's physical body could surpass the limits of the internal force once it surpassed its limits. Today, I finally understand that you, this guy, are really, really blessed by the heavens. It's not fair. Chen Guang smiled confidently. Don't envy me. This is the sacred elemental body that I painstakingly obtained in my previous life. I can't even explain the hardships of it to these two beautiful ladies. I can't bear to look back on the past. However, things didn't go my way. With my sacred elemental body, I actually didn't start off with skin force. It's a fly in the ointment. You're so cocky. Do you know what I admire the most about you? Xen Qin stared at him with glowing eyes. Chen Guang asked, What? Wu Miaowan answered for Xen Qin. We admire your shamelessness and your insatiable greed. So what you admire is my weakness. Xen Qin, no, this is your strength. Chen Guang had thought that something would happen between the two of them that night. However, after punching through the wall, the two of them didn't stay any longer and ran to the next room in unison. Chen Guang could only sigh at the air as he watched the two of them leave in a hurry. His heart was filled with melancholy. Forget it, I told you to focus on your studies. I have my own beauty in my books. I'll go study and find my beauty. You two will beg me for it. Wu Miaowan has been corrupted. She must have been corrupted. The two of them must have deliberately come to torture me tonight. In another room, Xen Qin and Wu Miaowan were whispering to each other. Wu Miaowan said, Sweetheart, did you catch the feeling when he made his move just now? What's so special about the painting scroll? Xen Qin glared at her. Don't try to seduce me. I can't breathe. I sucked in a huge breath just now. God knows why this guy's punch was so scattered. Wu Miaowan exclaimed, Did you absorb the qi from his punch directly into your stomach? Xen Qin hummed through her nose. After she finished speaking, a strange flush suddenly appeared on her originally exceptionally fair face. It was obvious that she was feeling a little uncomfortable because of the swelling. Wu Miaowan sighed. It must have been hard on you. God knows why this guy is so strong after just grasping inner force. I wanted to exchange a few moves with him and secretly learn some tricks from the painting scroll. In the end, this guy almost killed me with one punch. I thought all my efforts tonight were in vain. But can things like qi really be sucked into one's stomach by inhaling? A long muffled sound came from behind Xen Qin's buttocks. Xen Qin's entire body deflated like a balloon. She sighed. Wu Miaowan asked, Did you fart? Xen Qin blushed. That's it? That's it. Sighed. Wu Miaowan sighed. What a failure on the verge of success. Xianxia sighed. Forget it, forget it. I'll just tell him next time. Wu Miaowan shook her head. That won't do. Both of us secretly learned the painting scroll. Even if the cultivation method is leaked, it's our own doing. He's not at fault. But if he leaked it to us on purpose, he won't be able to explain himself to Wenwen. We can't make things difficult for him. With his personality, he'll probably be tortured to death. Oh, did you feel anything when you farted just now? Can chi really be sucked into one's stomach? Is the painting scroll's inner force so solid? Xianxia shook her head. Actually, I just felt a little itchy there. I don't know if it's really useless. Maybe it's just a psychological effect. There? Where my ass is. Really, aren't you ashamed? Isn't that what you asked? You're blaming me. After a brief moment of melancholy, Chen Guang quickly composed himself. He fished out the textbooks and courseware for the next exam from his bag and started studying them. As for the Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessment exam tomorrow, Lord Guang, who already had more than 800,000 faith points in his pocket, was very calm. Speaking of which, with the increase in the size of the deer cry fruit, the production of faith in the cup realm that was previously full was still increasing day by day. Now, unknowingly, it had already increased from the initial 44444 to the current 52,000. In addition to the newly planted Annihilation 20 god statues, the daily production of faith had already exceeded the 400,000 mark. It had been a little more than 2 days since they left the punishment realm. Their accumulated faith points were already close to 900,000. Before tomorrow's exam, they would have more than 1 million. With more than 1 million faith points, they could easily get a deluxe customized world in a cup. Just the thought of it was beautiful. Thinking back to the poor days where he had to count his faith points every day, with this current production, he was as blissful as a farmer who had escaped poverty and was heading for a well-off life. Tonight, he did not stay up all night. He went to bed after watching it for a while. He had been quite tired recently. He curled up in his bed and scrolled through Weibo to see what was going on online. It was no different from earlier. Bad news was still flying everywhere, and his die-hard fans were like a red dot in a sea of flowers. Even the comment section under his Weibo was in a mess. Fans and trolls were engaged in a fierce battle. I've said it before. Almighty Superman is a deceiver. He's not a good person. Only idiots like you would believe his hype. Brains are a good thing. I hope all of you have it. That's right. There's no one in this world who can do what he did. Do the trolls above have any shame? Have you seen the live broadcast? Can a live broadcast be faked? In the eyes of you idiotic fans, even a fart from this damn liar smells good. So what if it's a live broadcast? Who knew if he had recorded the broadcast and then disguised it as a live broadcast? Other celebrities lip sync at their concerts. Then the World Darts Championship is also recorded? Do you have the ability to bribe so many people? Playing the piano is also recorded? The Guinness Conference is also recorded? The Sword Tower Throne Challenge is also recorded? The World Arm Wrestling Competition is also recorded? The air crash is also recorded? You haters should be reasonable. Is your whole family recorded? Retard fans. That's right. If people like Chen Guang continue to deceive the world like this, it's an insult to everyone. Upstairs, I don't agree with you. I've seen his many live broadcasts. I think that what he did is real. But it doesn't matter. I just don't like him. He likes to create hype. He wants to boast that he's invincible. Can't he be more low-key? I'm a minor language learner. I can tell all of you clearly that it's impossible for anyone to learn 8 minor languages in a semester. Even Superman can't do it. Even those talented mutant geniuses can't do it. Every language family has a different grammatical structure and usage of words. The 8 subjects he applied for are not the same as the differences between Sichuan and Hunan dialects in our Chinese language. It's impossible for his brain to remember them. Learning a foreign language isn't just about memorizing ABC. I'll be the first to not believe it. That's right. So what if what he said was real? He's famous now. He's changed. He's at his wit's end. He's starting to use these little tricks to make a name for himself. Chapter 839. The haters upstairs are jealous of brother all-rounder. Brainless haters' families explode, their fathers' graves dance, and their mothers' hearse drift. This was definitely another black fan who brought up the tempo. I have no other opinions, I'm just unhappy that our goddess Jin Shuriwei is chasing after him, yet he still dares to dodge. I can't take it. That's right. Look at how much Jin Shuriwei has sacrificed for him, yet he didn't confess to her in front of everyone. He even said he likes his whatever tutor. Shameless scumbag. That's right. I support Moonlight CP. Is there no one supporting Jiang Yage and Qin Guang? I think the two of them are quite compatible. Jiang Yage and Qin Guang? Is it Jiangchen CP? Jiangchen your sister, your whole family is the king of zombies. Chen Guang tossed his phone aside, thinking, sigh, I'm not brave enough. Since I knew I would definitely be flamed, I shouldn't have gotten angry with these ignorant haters. If I got angry because of their shit, I would be at a disadvantage and fall into their trap. Truly experienced celebrities must have a heart that wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of them. They must understand that being liked by others is popularity, and being hated is also popularity. As a celebrity, they can't be afraid of being flamed or scolded. Being forgotten is the saddest thing. Just look at me right now, getting on the trending topic list just because of a small matter. Many people are envious of me. But I understand all of this, but I'm not happy. I'm not the kind of weakling who would offer the right side of my face for money after being slapped on the left. I know fame brings money, but I have to stand and earn this money. I can only gain fame by being flamed and scolded by others. I'm sorry, I don't want to rely on this fame to earn money. I'm not that despicable. You can grab hold of me and spit as much as you want. There's not much time left for you. Actually, everyone knew that he didn't go overboard this time. It was just signing up for 8 elective courses, even if it was just 8 minor languages. It wasn't as exaggerated as one might imagine. It wasn't to the extent of being flamed. So what if I can't pass the final exam? He didn't steal or rob, nor did he eat anyone's rice. Even if he really wanted to do something behind the scenes and force himself not to fail, so what? How could there be a lack of people in the country who did such things behind the scenes? There was really no need to be surprised. There was another reason why things had turned out this way. On the one hand, it was because the school was not in the right place from the beginning. Under the incitement of the boys from the School of Foreign Languages, the overall trend on the school forum was still to slander him. On the other hand, although the major media outlets tried their best to remain neutral in their reports to avoid igniting a fire, they couldn't control the overall atmosphere in the comments section. Recently, Qin Guang's image had been too positive. Many people who had opinions about him wanted to criticize him but couldn't find any fault. As the saying goes, it's better to disperse than to block, and it's better to guide than to disperse. These diehards' dissatisfaction with Qin Guang was deep-rooted. Not being able to find fault with Qin Guang would not change their minds. It would only continue to accumulate resentment in their hearts. Now, even a little bit of bad news was enough to become a vent for these people to crazily pour out their anger. People with dark minds always had a natural aversion to perfect things or people. For these keyboard warriors and trolls who lived on the other side of the internet, destroying perfect people and things could give them unimaginable pleasure. Trolls were the most unpredictable group in the world. Perhaps in real life, these people were well-dressed and behaved politely. But once they picked up their phones or sat in front of their computers, it was as if they were wearing the mask of a disguised geek. In an instant, they would become another person with a hideous and ugly face. The haters who spouted dirty words were all beginners. The truly skilled haters could find a way to express themselves in any situation. Their angles were extremely tricky, like a venomous snake jumping out of its hole, revealing its ferocious fangs. They used their vicious words and language to deal a fatal blow to the people in the comments section and the person in question. Just like some people doing charity, it was a good thing in the eyes of ordinary people. But in the eyes of trolls, They believed that there must be something fishy about it. People who do charity must be making money in the name of charity. There were indeed people who did such despicable things, but not everyone in the world was like that. Trolls did not understand this simple truth, or perhaps they were pretending not to understand. They were always able to project the darkness in their hearts onto others. As dark as they were, they felt that everyone else was as dark as they were. If others produced detailed statements to prove that the accounts were clean, the trolls would say that on the surface, you did not use charity to make money, but you did make a name for yourself, and you used your reputation to make money. What you said made so much sense that I had nothing to say in response. These words could often make people feel disgusted, but his logic was self-contained. Chen Guang's matter was just a small matter to begin with. But in the end, it caused the azure starry sky's momentum to go astray. When it was exposed to the media, those haters who had been suppressed for a long time finally found a target and pounced forth like mad dogs with their teeth bared. The combination of these two factors immediately caused this matter to reach this point on the internet at an extremely fast speed. The popularity of this topic on Weibo was even catching up to the scandal of a certain celebrity cheating. The number of topics was almost on par with each other. Just how free are these B********? Chen Guang rolled his eyes and replied to the few people who were concerned about this matter, telling them not to worry. Then he covered his head with a blanket. Who cares about the flood outside? I only care about having a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, Chen Guang did not pay attention to the outside world. After getting up, he ran to the study room and focused on reading his sage books. However, the domestic online world had already been stirred up by a piece of breaking news. That's right, after a series of intense negotiations, Tianguang Brokerage officially entered the work of organizing the World Language Conference. The rich and imposing Tianguang Brokerage invested 50 million, raising the original budget of less than 10 million to the total budget of the academic forum to 60 million. The originally stillborn competition segment had taken a turn for the better. The list of invited participants had skyrocketed from the original 1,000 or so people to 3,000. The entire flight tickets, accommodation, and 3 meals a day were all covered. They even opened up the registration criteria to the entire world. Even if you were not on the invitation list, you could still participate through the online qualifiers. As long as you could prove that you had mastered 5 distinct languages, you could enjoy 3 free public travel packages. It was said that the major Chinese consulates around the world would even give special treatment to those who wanted to participate in the competition. It was said to be the most difficult Chinese visa to obtain in the world. As long as you had all the necessary information, you could even get it signed on the same day. Other than that, the cash prize of 100,000 renminbi, which was originally better than nothing, was directly raised to nearly $2 million. Of course, under Chen Guang's instructions, Bai Hua took the initiative to help pull the strings, and Central TV's deputy station head Lu intervened. Tianguang Brokerage also spent a lot of money to buy out the conference's live broadcast rights, online broadcast rights, advertising rights, and other rights that could generate huge profits. They only left the original organizer, the Chinese Language Association, with a 10% share of the profits. Chen Guang and his Tianguang Brokerage were very rich, but they also had a big business to support. They had to support hundreds of employees, so they couldn't go against their own money. They still had to fight for the profits that needed to be fought for appropriately. The Chinese Language Association originally had some complaints about Tianguang Brokerage's 90% share of the profits. However, Bai Hua made a phone call to Secretary Chu. This was a small matter, and Secretary Chu could settle it with just a call. Unbeknownst to anyone, this matter had made its way from the center of Huaxia's power to the ears of the president of the Huaxia Language Association. If Bai Hua had not stopped him in time, this old man would have taken away the 10% share that the Language Association was supposed to get. After the matter was settled, the Chinese Language Association and Tianguang Brokerage's representative, Yu Hong, appeared at an impromptu press conference at around 11 a.m. Many reporters from the major media outlets in Beijing rushed over and witnessed with their own eyes what was probably the fastest business collaboration in history that was worth 500 million RMB. The press conference lasted less than 15 minutes before it was announced that it was adjourned. Many reporters in the venue had already started preparing their scripts. Before the press conference was over, all kinds of announcements appeared on the major media outlets like snowflakes. All-rounder Chen Guang announces that he will participate in the World Language Conference competition to be held in Beijing next week. Unable to bear the humiliation, all-rounder Chen Guang has decided to prove himself. He will compete with more than 2,000 language geniuses from all over the world at the World Language Conference. Science Guide. What is the World Language Conference? What is a competition? Bamboo Live announces that the World Language Conference competition will be broadcasted live online. What kind of exciting show will the gold medal duo of Chen Guang and Bamboo Live bring us? A tiger's but cannot be touched. It's fine if he doesn't make a sound, but amazes the world with a single brilliant feat. Greetings from the face-slapping king, Chen Guang. In the face of doubt, the most powerful counterattack is to step onto the highest stage to prove yourself. How petty is Chen Guang? Can't he just touch a tiger's butt? Countless painful lessons have yet to make Chen Guang's haters wake up. Who will have the last laugh this time? Please wait and see. You say he doesn't know 8 foreign languages? He might as well step onto the world stage. The market value of Bamboo Live is expected to rise. Can the best IP Chen Guang create glory again? The birth of the strongest lying down live streaming platform. Whoever has Chen Guang will have the world. Soy Milk Live. So, there's no reason why Chen Guang can do everything. There's no reason why Bamboo can win every time. The overly conceited Chen Guang dabbles too much and underestimates the heroes of the world. He will meet his Waterloo. Professor Liu, a senior expert from Yenjing University of Foreign Languages, Chen Guang doesn't know that there are real geniuses in the world who have mastered more than 40 languages. I'm waiting to see him make a fool of himself. This overwhelming announcement, coupled with the live broadcast or edited video of the conference on news and information websites, completely pushed the storm of the 8 foreign language elective courses that had been brewing for 2 days to the peak. China's online world exploded in an instant. It was just a small incident of signing up for an elective course, yet it could cause such a ruckus. He was probably the first person in history who would never be able to do such a thing. Apart from that, he had raised the reward to a level that was tempting enough to attract the true geniuses who had awakened in the Broca area. In the past World Language Conference competitions, people who had mastered about 10 foreign languages could easily win the championship. However, everyone knew that learning 10 foreign languages might be extremely difficult for ordinary people, but it wasn't impossible for professionals. For true geniuses who had awakened in the Broca region, it was even easier. For those monsters who were naturally sensitive to languages, mastering 10 languages was a basic requirement if they put in a little more effort. If they had been studying languages for a longer period of time, it was not impossible for them to have mastered more than 20 languages. However, it was relatively rare for more than 30 of them to have the ability to communicate, but it wasn't as if there were none. Peerless geniuses who could speak and communicate with people in more than 50 languages also existed. In history, there had even been super geniuses who could speak 70 languages and read and write in another 56. Although Chen Guang had already proven his strength in many fields, he was really too arrogant this time. At least in the field of language, God was never fair. Even the most experienced linguists weren't willing to compete with those awakened geniuses from the Broca region. It was just like how a dwarf would never be able to outrun a normal person. Everyone's leg length was different. 1 step for a dwarf was equivalent to 3 steps for a dwarf. What were you going to do to compete? Was there something wrong with you? Did you have a bone to pick with your money? Did you really think that you were invincible no matter what you did? That was the biggest joke in the world. Just wait to be embarrassed. Chen Guang didn't know that his very casual decision would be interpreted so much after it was officially announced to the public. He was just calmly reading his book with Sun Xiaoxuan and the others in the study room. Brother Guang, aren't you going to take the Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessment next? Why are you reading environmental economics? Seeing that the exam time was getting closer and closer, Lin Jingwei, who had been upset all morning, couldn't help but point at the book in Chen Guang's hand. Chen Guang also looked at his watch, put down the book, and smiled mysteriously. Young man, you don't understand. You have to respect the god of exams. In the future, if you want to take the postgraduate and doctoral exams, you have to burn incense in front of my photo every day. You can't be so pretentious, can you? Do you think the introduction to environmental impact assessment is easy to take? It's all rote memorization, and it's a closed book. It would be strange if you didn't read books. I've checked, this compulsory course won't be available next semester, and you won't even have the chance to retake it. If you fail this time, you'll have to come back to school for the exam halfway through your work. Don't blame me for not reminding you then. Lin Jingwei said angrily. Bai Fan, who was messing around on the side, was fiddling with his phone. Suddenly, his eyes lit up when he saw the news report of Tianguang Agency and the Chinese Language Association. Isn't this Brother Guang's company? Are they causing trouble? F***CK. What the F***CK is this? Am I blind? Bai Fan pointed at the long title of the news on his phone, his face full of confusion. The others also moved their heads over to take a look. They were shocked when they saw what was going on. Chen Guang, who had already guessed the content of the news, didn't even raise his head. He was still engrossed in his environmental economics book, muttering like he was chanting scriptures. The trading of emission permits refers to within a certain area. On the other side, Lin Jingwei and the others scanned through the shocking news at lightning speed, but saw that Chen Guang was still engrossed in his book. They couldn't hold it in anymore. Brother Guang, it says here that you spent 50 million on that world language competition. Is that true? Are you crazy? Xiong yelled at Chen Guang's ear with his loud, broken voice. Chen Guang's head was shaken to the point of dizziness. He dug his ear with his fingers and patted Xiong on the head. You're making a fuss out of nothing. Are you trying to make me deaf? It's not a big deal. Behave yourselves. But it's 50 million. It's written here that the total prize pool is 10 million. Bai Fan said again. Chen Guang finally put down his book and looked up in deep thought. The prize pool is only 10 million? That's less than $2 million. That's not good. No, I'll call them later and ask them to make the prize pool bigger. Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ya, and Lin Jingwei all looked at him as if he was crazy. They didn't even want to say a word. Chen Guang saw their incredulous expressions and didn't bother to explain to them. He just smiled coldly. Have you all forgotten the painful lessons of the past? You forced me to do this. It seemed that the old man could only use his ultimate trick to slap himself in the face. Let me tell you, when I act tough, I don't care about anyone. Just as he was thinking, Chen Guang's phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and saw that it was a message from Azure Sky's mobile app. The Modern Chemistry 4 exam was out the day before yesterday. Fine, I was just about to slap you in the face. Isn't this the opportunity? I'll just slap you a little to calm myself down. He picked up his phone, opened the app, and winked at them. All right, forget about the World Language Conference. It's really not a big deal. Don't be fooled by the uproar on the internet. It's just a trivial matter to me. Come on, the results of the Modern Chemistry exam are out. How about it? I'm not bragging, am I? Although this course was taken by Nicosia, and he didn't really want to brag about it, these people were trampling on him. If he didn't teach them a lesson, they wouldn't know who he was. Didn't you say that I couldn't pass this course? Didn't I pass now? They looked at the bright red 100 marks on the app. Their mouths were wide open, and they were also shocked. This guy really wasn't bragging? Full marks? So sci-fi? Even the straight-A student, Sun Xiaoxuan, didn't get full marks. Even the straight-A student, Shandong Laotian, didn't get full marks, but you got full marks. Chen Guang felt much better when he saw that they were about to lose their minds from shock. He put away his phone and stood up. All right, let's eat lunch. The exam is after lunch. Don't be obsessed with me. I'm a legend. Chen Guang ran like the wind, leaving behind a cool, domineering, and handsome silhouette. Sun Xiaoxuan and the others took a while to recover and quickly got up to chase after him. As they got closer, they heard Chen Guang talking to someone on the phone. "Old you, I saw the news. Well done. Quite efficient. I didn't expect you guys to reach an agreement so quickly. Yeah, of course we have to fight for what's ours. Alright, there's one more thing. I don't have any other requests, but the prize pool is a little too stingy. We have to increase it. Increase it to 100 million renminbi. Don't be too much." You didn't hear wrong. I'm not joking. 100 million. The company's liquidity should be just enough, right? Alright, that's settled. Let's talk later. I'm a little busy right now. On this side, Chen Guang hung up the phone after he finished speaking. The eyes of the people behind him twitched. Crazy. Completely crazy. Is this what you meant by making it bigger? A little? Your family's a little is 10 times. The 50 million sponsorship from before was not enough. Now this guy actually increased the prize pool from 10 million to 100 million in an instant. It really rounded up to 100 million. This meant that the 50 million sponsorship in the news had instantly turned into 140 million. Crazy. This guy was definitely a lunatic. No, I have to call 120 and get a doctor. I have to send him to a mental hospital immediately for a checkup. Otherwise, he would lose all of his assets in a matter of minutes. The few of them had received quite a bit of stimulation in this short period of time. Even Lin Jingwei, who was used to seeing the world, felt that his brain couldn't wrap itself around it. This is a small game. It's not the UEFA Champions League or the World Cup. How can you spend money like this? Aren't you giving it for free? You're not just going against the money. You're going against your own life. Chapter 841. Sensing the 5 gazes behind him, Chen Guang turned around and asked, "What? Are you trying to stop me? That's impossible. I'm not joking. What the F***CK? Hurry up and change your mind." Lin Jingwei pounced on him. Bai Nyangzi rushed up and hugged his thigh. "My brother, you can't waste money like this. Why don't you invest in my novel and make it into a movie or TV series? You can hype it up. Even if it's a flop, you can at least earn some money back. At least you can get some bubbles. Look at the 300 million box office sales of other people's novels." Xiong Jinke, on the other hand, gave him a bear hug and wanted to carry him directly into the mental hospital. Even Sun Xiaoxuan, who had almost blind faith in him, did not stand on his side this time. He almost cried and said, "Chen Guang, don't do this. Although we all know that you don't lack money now, it's not easy for you to earn a family business. You should hire a professional manager to help you take care of these things. Don't mess around like this." Chen Guang covered his ears. He really couldn't say anything to these people. He knew that in the eyes of ordinary people, his current behavior might seem a bit like a lunatic. Even Yu Hong questioned his decision on the phone just now. But he did not intend to change his mind. Even if the total prize pool increased from 10 million to 100 million, the prize money prepared for the champion accounted for half of the total prize pool, which was 50 million. This champion must be him. He could not let it go to anyone else. Therefore, in the eyes of others, he was giving away 100 million crazily, but in fact, he was only giving away 50 million. The new sponsorship plan, compared to the previous sponsorship plan, only increased the actual expenditure by about 45 million, which was not unacceptable. In addition, this was probably the highest prize pool for a niche academic forum competition in human history. It was n times higher than the prize money of the Nobel Prize. This could make the World Language Conference, which was originally not valued and very marginalized, instantly gain unimaginable popularity and attention. In China, perhaps because of his participation in the competition, this niche academic forum was naturally popular. But overseas, looking at the international scene, his name was not so useful. In order to make the world's language society receive international attention, what could be simpler and more effective than creating such an exaggerated and almost abnormal prize pool? It was impossible for foreigners to remain calm in a language competition that had the same prize money as the Champions League, right? Any problem that could be solved with money was not a problem. How much effort would be saved in advertising and promotion? I'll just throw in money to save time, effort, and worry. His seemingly crazy behavior was actually killing two birds with one stone. Since the attention of the world's language club had increased, wouldn't it be more valuable when they were talking about sponsors? If he wanted to own the statue in one fell swoop, shouldn't he attract all the people who were talented in languages? Geniuses were always proud. 10 million yuan, which was less than $2 million, might not be enough to move these geniuses. However, there was a saying that humans were reserved because they were not tempted enough. With a total prize pool of almost $20 million, even the most arrogant genius in the world had to lower his noble head and fly here from all over the world with absolute confidence in his own abilities, becoming a stepping stone for him to ascend to the throne. The stronger his opponent was, the more indisputable recognition and worship he would receive when he reached the top. The brighter the pile of bones in front of the throne, the more dazzling his crown as the king of languages would be. I didn't want to wait until I won this match, only to have someone suddenly jump out and express dissatisfaction with me, saying that I won this time because I was planting sweet potatoes at home and didn't have time to deal with you. If I show up, you'll have to kneel on the ground and sing "Conquer" at any moment. The best thing about this kind of person was that he could describe things that didn't happen as if they were true, and his theory was as flawless as Schrödinger's cat. It made me feel disgusted and helpless, but I couldn't really compete with him alone. But he really didn't come, so I can't say that I'm definitely better than him. So, it was really worth it to fork out an extra 45 million in cash. The experience of many successful projects proved that for the super content provider, the omnipotent Superman Chen Guang, it was too easy to make money. Money was just a worldly possession. Only faith points were eternal. For the first statue of a god in the middle realm of the Silver Line Cup, I'll give away the prize pool of 50 million. I can earn it back anyway. Of course, the premise of his whole set of theories was based on the situation where he was sure that he could win. If he lost, then he would have to give away 100 million, which was quite an exaggeration. Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and the others couldn't sit still because of this. So geniuses were often not understood by others, and there was only a thin line between them and lunatics. Others couldn't understand where Chen Guang's confidence came from, and they felt that he was already crazy. Only he himself understood that he couldn't lose. Because I'm a genius. Okay, I'm begging you. Facts speak louder than words, okay? You won't believe anything I say now, but I know my own situation very well. I have a whole set of plans, and I won't lose anything. Why don't you think about it? Haven't I never lost anything before? When I say that I can do something, have I never gone back on my words? If you guys continue like this, I won't come to school anymore, okay? I'm scared of you guys. Chen Guang couldn't be reasoned with, so he decided to play rogue with Sun Xiaoxuan and the others. He also knew that they were doing this for his own good. But they were at different levels, and their thoughts were completely different. Just like how summer insects can't talk about ice, even if they argued with each other for another year, they wouldn't be able to convince each other. The only thing he could do now was to play around with them, and then wait until next week, he would beat the world's heroes in the language competition. At that time, action would be the most advantageous counterattack. This group of idiots would know just how ignorant they were. But don't say any more. I have to take the exam after lunch. This is more important than 100 million in my heart. Everyone stared at him. Damn. If the teacher who teaches you the introduction to environmental impact assessment knew that his course was so important to you, would he be so moved that he would cry? After a while, Chen Guang finally pushed the doubts of this group of frogs at the bottom of the well to the floor. After lunch, he was too lazy to talk anymore. He carried his bag and trotted all the way to a teaching building, ignoring these people's grief-stricken faces. Sitting in the examination room, there were about 10 minutes before the papers were distributed. He was too lazy to pay attention to the curious eyes of the other boys in the same exam. His left hand held the textbook, his right hand held the cup, and he calculated the faith value in his heart. More than 1. 2 million, very good. Deluxe edition, let's go. When he entered the world in the cup, Lu Ming advised him not to use faith value like this, and let Nicosia write for him. I say, you're really something. Why didn't you use such a powerful gunner? Why did you have to do it yourself? Aren't you crazy? Lu Ming teased. Chen Guang's face glowed with a majestic light. He waved his hand and said righteously, when I was young, I stole needles. When I grew up, I stole cows. Today, I let someone else do it for me just for a makeup exam. How can I face my upright life in the future? When I face a life and death crisis in the test of the world in the cup, will there be someone who can do it for me? Lu Ming, you and Lioli don't know what other secrets this heavenly holy grail has. I have to rely on myself. God knows how many difficulties and dangers await me in front of me to become the true master of the holy grail. Will there be someone who can do these things for me? Confucius said, don't do good because it's small, don't do evil because it's small. Stop, stop, stop. Lu Ming waved a leaf and covered this guy's mouth. Nicosia's soul, who had been floating in the void, also heard the righteous words of Qin Guang transmitted by Lu Ming. She fiercely muttered to herself, F***CK. Do you think I want to help you? Idiot master of the Holy Grail. After breaking free from Lu Ming's leaf, Qin Guang's heart was calm. Today I am still upright. Come on. Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessment, World in the Cup. This name sounds a little strange? Forget it, don't mind the details. Ever since he obtained the heavenly Holy Grail, this was probably the first time that Qin Guang used the function of the Holy Grail for learning. He himself did not know what it would be like to use the deluxe version of the World in the Cup to study, but he was rather looking forward to it. With a tilt of his head, his spiritual body floated up from the cloud city and was sucked into the dark space-time tunnel with a whoosh. Nicosia was still complaining. This guy's Chunibu syndrome is getting worse. Suddenly, she also felt that her soul was beginning to feel a suction force from the void. Nicosia had a lot of experience with this. After all, many times before when Qin Guang underwent customized special training in the World in the Cup, she was the one who was drawn to be a prop, such as transforming into all kinds of fancy fitness equipment. This was also the real reason why Goddess Lioli spared her life back then. She was gradually getting used to this. Although it was a little disgusting, she just took it as the price for the opportunity to have eternal life. She gritted her teeth and endured it. Since he wants to read and learn this time, I will probably become a book? This was what Nicosia thought in her heart before her soul was completely sucked out. Suddenly, her fingers twitched. The long-awaited feeling of having a real body inexplicably came from her fingertips. This feeling was so familiar, but also so strange. Just the feeling of her index finger rubbing against her thumb made her heart tremble, and her eyes almost became moist. That's not right, I actually have tears too. Nicosia slowly opened her eyes and raised her right hand slightly. Looking at her white palm and slender fingers, her breathing gradually quickened. This time, I actually became a human. God. Oh no, it's Goddess Lioli. She subconsciously roared in her heart. Chapter 842. Originally, he thought that he would exist as a soul without a body for a very, very long time. Originally, he thought that he would no longer miss his body. Originally, he had told himself countless times that he would live like this, in the state of a soul. He would not feel tired, his mind would be sharper, and he would never age. It was a very blissful thing. From the moment she had lived in the Holy Grail as a complete soul, Nixie had been using this firm belief to numb herself. But now she suddenly realized that she was wrong. All of a sudden, she regained her physical body without any warning. She suddenly realized that she still missed the feeling of living like a human. Teacher, can you start the class? Chen Guang sat in front of the desk and looked at the pretty teacher in front of him with a smile. He was really satisfied. Blonde hair, blue eyes, big breasts, and voluptuous. Her waist was really thin, and her butt was quite perky. She didn't look very old, only close to 20 years old. The best part was the deep V collar of her business attire that was especially wide open. Coupled with her black-rimmed glasses and the way she held a teaching stick, she was perfect to the point of being impeccable. Why would she need a bicycle? Private tutoring by a tutor. The deluxe version of the world in a cup this time is so awesome. I can't believe they sent me a sexy European and American tutor. Full marks. Chen Guang hadn't really seen Nixie's face before. Perhaps this was the first time he had seen the true face of the last genius girl of the Daoist family. Nixie was pulled back to reality by Qin Guang's words. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Qin Guang, who was sitting upright like a good student in front of her. She then turned her head to look at the miniature classroom that was only about 10 square meters in size. Realization suddenly dawned on her. This guy's special training tool this time was a tutor. Coincidentally, this tutor was me, Nixie. She really didn't know whether to feel lucky or depressed. Chen Guang smacked his lips and thought to himself, I really didn't expect this custom special training to be so awesome. What was I thinking before I came in? First of all, in order to ensure efficiency, there was no escape from the cramming method of teaching. I admit that. Also, at that time, I seemed to be tired of studying alone. After all, when I was learning acting, I had to study until I was crazy. Once again, I seemed to have thought that it would be best to give me a beautiful teacher. This teacher must be beautiful. She couldn't wear too much. Otherwise, what was the use of being beautiful? You can't wear too little either. Otherwise, it will make me restless and affect my learning efficiency. Don't ask me why, they just have to be big. Alright, I was just thinking about it. In any case, the heavenly Holy Grail would never be so obedient and give me whatever I want. When Chen Guang saw Nicosia, he was so touched that his eyes brimmed with tears. The Holy Grail did not lie to him. Awesome. Powerful. So beautiful. It was a Caucasian woman. I'm starting to miss Annie from the Sea of Moments. I can't even find an angle to retort. Anyway, how is she going to teach me? Judging from her rich expression, she shouldn't be one of those NPC props I met when I was learning the piano. She should have her own thoughts and be in existence close to a real person, right? At the same time, a whole teaching plan suddenly appeared in Nicosia's mind. It was forced into her head by the heavenly Holy Grail. From now on, her every move and every word must strictly follow the requirements set by the heavenly Holy Grail. Although she now had a physical body, and her soul lived in this physical body. She was a completely real person. The role she was playing now was ultimately just a prop. Compared to the props of the past, today's props were more humane and realistic. If they were brought to the neighboring island nation, they would be the top super silicone dolls that cost tens of thousands of dollars. But the Holy Grail would not really let this prop do as she pleased. The Holy Grail had rich experience in training Chen Guang and knew how to train Master Light to grow up. Perhaps Nicosia was also very capable, but it was obvious that the Holy Grail, who had no emotions and no thoughts, and whose top priority was to train Chen Guang, would not listen to her argument. Bastard! You've finally fallen into my hands. That was what Nicosia wanted to say in her heart, but what came out of her mouth was, Student Chen Guang, please focus and turn to the first page of the textbook. Very good. Just like that, be good. The first semester of Teacher Daoist's Teaching with Love is about to begin. Bastard. I don't want to give him some damned teaching with love. How embarrassing. Don't make me say something like that. Wait, what am I doing with my hands? Bastard. Why am I pulling at my collar with my hands? What are you doing, you bastard, cup? Is it true that the cup is like its owner? Can't we teach a little more normally? On the other side, Chen Guang had no idea that the beautiful girl in front of him was Nicosia. The moment he heard the words, teaching with love, he quickly perked up. He held his head high and puffed out his chest, staring straight ahead with bright, piercing eyes. All right, Teacher Daoist. His view of the heavenly Holy Grail immediately changed. This heartless cup wasn't completely unreasonable. Teaching with love was fine, it kept up with the times. Although he didn't know why this sexy blonde teacher was also surnamed Daoist, which was the same as Nicosia, who had blown him up and was now living in the heavenly Holy Grail, it didn't matter. Perhaps the heavenly Holy Grail's naming cancer had flared up and it was just being lazy. On the other side, Nicosia, who couldn't control her body at all, heaved a sigh of relief. Her uncontrollable hands had pulled open her collar very much, but it just so happened that the two most important parts were not exposed. From Chen Guang's angle, he could only see two perfectly round hemispheres. Fortunately, although this is a little embarrassing, I still have my bottom line. Nicosia's heart was slightly relieved, but when she heard what she couldn't help but say next, she knew that it was too early for her to be happy. So good, so obedient. Teacher really likes you. Nicole, I can't take it anymore. I really want to die. I'm so disgusted. Why don't you let me turn into a book, or even a stool under his butt? Chen Guang. With such a teacher, what else can I ask for? My life is worth it. Our teaching with love is divided into a total of 3 semesters. The first semester is the introductory chapter. In the introductory chapter, you will have a comprehensive understanding and learning of the environmental impact assessment industry through systematic study. After completing the introductory chapter, you will become a senior environmental assessment worker, and it won't be a problem for you to take the certified engineer examination. Nicosia said again. Chen Guang nodded. Nicosia's heart was slightly relieved, and her lines were finally a little more normal. If my dear student can complete the first semester's learning task with an S grade, I will take off my shirt. Nicosia, crazy. Chen Guang, as expected of the luxury version of high-end clubhouse treatment, it's actually so considerate and humane. Teaching with love, the old man was going all out. The second semester is the advanced chapter. Through the advanced chapter, you will become the world's best environmental assessment engineer. It sounds amazing, but I'm not going to do environmental assessment. It doesn't seem to be of any use, right? I just want to deal with the exam in front of me. So, dear teacher, what's the reward for the second semester's final exam? I will take off my skirt. May the great teacher Teepister live forever. The third semester is called the Invincible chapter. It sounds amazing. That's right, Teacher Teepister's teaching with love is amazing. Through the Invincible chapter, you will be able to master this subject 20 years later. In the scope of environmental impact assessment, you will be 20 years ahead of this era. My teacher is amazing. So what's the reward? The reward is that you successfully graduate from the world in a cup. Wait, the shirt and skirt have been taken off. Shouldn't the next step be, sorry, this is only the deluxe version, not the supreme version. That's going to cost more. My dear world in a cup, are you going to transform into a big treasure sword? Are you trying to trick me into paying more money? Chen Guang was speechless at the inexplicable bad taste of the heavenly Holy Grail. Time flew. He did not know how much time had passed, but the smugness in Chen Guang's heart had long been erased by the cruel reality. Who would have thought that the graduation exam would be so difficult? He did not know how difficult the advanced and invincible chapters would be, but he had failed more than 70 times in the introductory chapter. There were as many as 15 subjects in each exam. There was no such thing as passing with 60 points. One had to pass with an S-level score, which was full marks. A wrong punctuation mark in the essay would result in a 0. 5-point deduction, and then he would fail. In addition, all 15 subjects had to be passed in one go. If he failed one, he would have to start all over again. What was even more infuriating was that every time he failed, the exam would not be arranged immediately. Instead, he would have to start from the sentence, "Student Chen Guang, please focus." Everything had to be redone. The process was super boring and super torturous. He could not afford to be careless during the exam, or else he would have to start all over again. How could a person not make even the slightest mistake? Furthermore, these 15 tests were one after another. There was no time to breathe in between. If it wasn't for the world in the cup's spiritual seal, he would have almost suffered a nervous breakdown. The same words, the same person, the same thing. The first time he experienced it, the second time he experienced it, the second time he experienced it, the third time he experienced it, and the fourth time it became torture. As for the last dozens of times, forget it, let bygones be bygones. We have to learn to look forward. Old Master Guang felt that he had really underestimated the heavenly Holy Grail. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. No wonder he was given a beautiful blonde teacher with big wavy eyes. The cup world of the heavenly Holy Grail's special training was so boring and torturous. If not for the fact that this teacher was pleasing to the eye, I would have quit then, alright? To be honest, I only wanted to pass the exam. You don't have to train me into a master. Unfortunately, the heavenly Holy Grail could not hear his cries. There was no turning back, and there was no medicine for regret in this world. The effects of the heavenly Holy Grail skills training were never discounted. Although all you wanted was a mung bean, for the sake of my reputation, I had to let this distinguished guest experience the best training effects. I had to give you a field of mung beans. The product of the Holy Grail was definitely the best. That was probably what it meant. Chapter 843. Congratulations, Qin Guang. You've successfully completed your first semester. Thank you for the compliment, teacher. It's finally over. Chen Guang stared at the blonde, blue-eyed, and wavy teacher to pest. Take it off. Take it off. Take it off. He'd worked himself to the bone until now. At least there was something to be happy about. He waited for a long time, but teacher Tepes didn't move. It seemed like she'd forgotten her promise. Teacher, your clothes. You've died more than 70 times, and you still have the cheek to ask me about my clothes? Your overall assessment score is Z grade. What the hell is Z? Isn't it only A, B, C, and D? Passing once is S, and passing twice is A. I gave you Z because there are only 26 letters in English. It's all a lie. Then, do you want to study by yourself, or continue to experience my loving teaching? Looking at the two faintly discernible lumps in front of Niquo's chest, Chen Guang silently considered for 3 seconds. Forget it, it was better than nothing. Thank you, teacher. Looking at his reluctant face, Nicosie already wanted to strangle him in her heart. Do you think I want to talk to you in such a gentle manner? I just want to kill you, okay? Niquo's protest was ineffective, and so was Qin Guang's. The merciless advanced chapter smashed into their heads. Chen Guang was tortured, but Niquo's wasn't any better. Although she looked like an overbearing, cold, and sexy teacher on the surface, only she knew how much suffering the soul in this body was suffering. In fact, it was understandable that the heavenly Holy Grail was able to control everything like this. Although Niquo's was a genius, she was, after all, a completely different profession from environmental impact assessment. It was not a problem for her to recite the basic knowledge, but if she wanted to systematically explain the depth of the environmental impact assessment, it would be beyond her ability. Even someone with a high IQ like her had to at least learn and understand before she could truly be qualified for this teaching task. The introductory chapter was already hard enough to make one's hair stand on end, let alone the advanced chapter. Old Master Guang swore to himself that when he had enough faith points in the future, he would not repeat the same mistake. He would reject the beggar version, the deluxe version, and the supreme VIP version. Using one's brain to learn wasn't any easier than training one's body. Both had their own hardships and pains. Only when he lost it did he realize that it was too late to regret. Only now did he realize that it was a rare blessing to be well-developed but simple-minded. After failing nearly 200 subjects, he finally gritted his teeth and endured it. Even though the world in the cup had the ability to seal one's mind, he was still mentally and physically exhausted. He stared at Teacher Tepest with a pair of dead fish eyes. Having learned from his mistakes, he no longer hoped for an S-level reward. He had to thank fate that he was still alive. He had no time to think about anything else. Classmate Qin Guang, all right, Teacher Tepester, stop talking. Let's get straight to the invincible manual. I've already become a Buddha. My heart is as still as water, and I will no longer be shaken by anything in the world. Really? Although you're still rated Z this time, I approve of your performance. Don't be shy. I'll let you have a look. Nicosia screamed frantically in her heart. But it was no use. Her uncontrollable hands grabbed the collar of the deep V shirt and pulled it hard. Teacher, Why do you have a chest patch? This is a place to teach and educate people. Classmate Chen Guang, please correct your attitude and don't have any meaningless thoughts. How dare you say something like that? Your shamelessness is comparable to that of the old man. Nicosia rolled her eyes quietly. Like owner, like cup. She had been forcefully given a character's personality, but she had learned it all from Chen Guang. Their level of shamelessness was the same as meeting one's match. What would come would come. Chen Guang leaned back in his chair. Come on, invincible manual. Don't dawdle. Just let me die early. Actually, I don't ask for much. I just want to study hard and be a good person. He had failed more than 200 times just to become the best environmental assessment engineer in today's society. Then he remembered that the invincible manual required him to learn knowledge that was 20 years ahead of the current technological level. It was terrifying. The knowledge was so advanced, and the exam rules were so crazy. Wouldn't he have to fail thousands of times to pass? Every time, it was exactly the same from beginning to end. Although he had no concept of time in the world in the cup, a round of the advanced manual would take at least 10 years. Counting his fingers, he had spent a total of 3,000 to 4,000 years on the advanced manual alone. Then wouldn't the invincible manual take tens of thousands of years? Although his time and spirit were completely frozen now, the number was so ridiculous. Just thinking about it made him want to die. While he was letting his imagination run wild, he suddenly heard a voice. Congratulations, you've completed the third semester's invincible manual learning task with an S-level evaluation. What? I haven't started yet, have I? No, it's already over. 20 years later, the backward subject of environmental impact assessment has been replaced by a more systematic theory. Chen Guang, are you kidding me? You scared me so much that I almost peed my pants. You said you passed just because of a disagreement? How could this work? It turned out that it really worked. Before he came to his senses, the heavenly Holy Grail kicked him out of the world in the Cup of Love classroom. He didn't stay in Yunqing for more than a few minutes. After taking a breather and cursing the heavenly Holy Grail in his heart for a while, his mind swayed again and he appeared outside in the blink of an eye. He was still holding a book in one hand and a cup in the other. The invigilator was already yelling for people to hand in their textbooks and review materials. Chen Guang stood up. His body swayed subconsciously and he almost sat down again. His body didn't feel any discomfort, but his mind was a little uncomfortable. He suddenly remembered that he had been sitting on a chair and a desk for thousands of years. It wasn't that he didn't want to get up, but he couldn't. He was nailed to the chair and couldn't move his butt. Although that was in the past, Chen Guang couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It turned out that it was also a kind of happiness to be able to stand. He threw his bag to the side of the podium, turned off his phone and threw it in. He sat back again, holding his chin with his hand and looking out of the window quietly. Thousands of years had passed in the world in the cup, but in the outside world, it was only less than 0. 1 second. From time to time, people looked at Chen Guang with strong curiosity and awkwardness. Some thought he was crazy, some thought he was a genius, some were envious of his success, and some were jealous of his luck. There were 1,000 Hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes, not to mention that there were far more than 1,000 people who knew Chen Guang now. From the moment he decided to become a celebrity, Chen Guang was mentally prepared for this. He didn't find it strange, nor did he feel uncomfortable. After the initial discomfort, he realized that he sometimes indulged in the feeling of being the center of attention. This wasn't because he was vain. His reputation was earned by risking his life and suffering. It was his reputation, so he naturally had a clear conscience when he enjoyed it. Up until now, the only time I had deceived the public was when I had Nicosia take the Modern Chemistry 4 exam for me the day before yesterday. But that was all in the past. From now on, I was a good and righteous young man. Just wait to kneel before the Lord Prodigy, mortals. Chen Guang had a sinister smile on his face. He stared straight at the invigilator who was handing out the exam papers as he walked. The poor invigilator didn't know what was wrong with him. He clearly didn't do anything, so why was this famous person in the school staring at him with a sinister smile? He heard that his private life wasn't that good. Could it be that he didn't even let men go? The invigilator inexplicably clamped his hips. He was so nervous. Was he going to be a sugar daddy? The specific process of Qin Guang's exam didn't need to be described in detail. However, the outside world was once again in an uproar because of his generosity. Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang fought fiercely with an almost desperate mood. They finalized the crazy decision of letting Lu Xiaoyang announce to the public that Qin Guang couldn't be pulled back even by 10 bulls. He gave away 100 million yuan as a competition prize. Moreover, the company was still a startup and there was no clear profit model. He was clearly trying to squander the company on purpose so that he could justifiably quit his job. If the CEO of a listed company made such a decision as if he had taken the wrong medicine, he would be impeached at the shareholders' meeting and start to doubt his life. However, it was a pity that Tianguang Brokerage wasn't listed. Instead, it was a shareholding company. Moreover, this crazy chairman personally controlled 80% of the shares. The other shareholder, Tangjie Fund, was completely incompetent. Even if Chen Guang wanted to sell the entire company to others for a dime, as long as the number one person in charge of Tangjie Fund, Tang Shaokai, didn't jump out to stop him, no one could do anything about it. 3-1. Bigger than you. King. Xiao Lu, you've lost everything. You're up. Chen Guang's 3 right-hand men in the company used such a rigorous method to convince Lu Xiaoyang to announce the news to the public. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyang was standing on the podium of the press conference, looking down at the group of reporters that he had just met this morning. Beside him stood the president of the Wuxia Language Association, who was a little restless. This man was still fiddling with a Spanish dictionary under the table. That's right. After hearing the insider news that could explode one's eardrums, he had already started to revise his Spanish that he had thrown away for a long time. He was also planning to participate in the competition. The reporters at the press conference were also in an uproar. They were even a little impatient. They felt that the people from Tianguang Brokerage had nothing better to do. They were simply professionals at press conferences. They were addicted to holding press conferences. Couldn't they take a break after holding 2 conferences a day? Otherwise, couldn't they have said everything in one go in the morning? Did they really think that driving in Beijing wasn't torturous? The Ziziman overpass would teach them a lesson in minutes, all right? Lu Xiaoyang secretly rolled his eyes. Then he suddenly picked up the microphone and said in a tone that was close to a desperate wail, "After continuous discussions, our company has decided to increase the sponsorship investment for the World Language Conference. The total amount is 140 million renminbi, of which 100 million renminbi will be used as the prize pool for this year's World Language Conference." Boom! The huge venue exploded with a bang. Oh my God! My 7th granduncle! Was Qin Guang trying to turn the world upside down? Chapter 844. A young reporter stood up from the back and looked at Lu Xiaoyang in disbelief. "Mr. Lu, is what you said true? Did we hear wrongly?" Lu Xiaoyang glanced at him and nodded. "Of course it's true. Our company would never joke about such things. This is the amount of the bonus pool that our company's chairman, Mr. Qin Guang, set." The press conference was suddenly filled with voices. Even the most experienced reporter could not hold it in anymore. Everyone whispered to each other, causing the conference room to buzz. It was as if thousands of bees had gathered together. "Mr. Lu, may I ask why your company suddenly raised the bonus to such an unbelievable level? Mr. Lu, did Tianguang Agency get a new injection of capital? But won't it cause a backlash from the investors? The almighty Qin Guang will be participating in the competition too. Did he set such a bonus because he is certain that he will win? Isn't that too arrogant? 140 million can do a lot of things. Why would your company choose to sponsor such a project that has almost no profit value? What's the point of your company doing this? I heard that Tianguang Agency has over 100 employees now. Mr. Lu, can you tell us more about your company's business plan? Although the internet celebrity economy is gaining momentum, Logical Thinking recently announced that it will withdraw from Pappy Chan's company. This means that the development and sustainability of personal IP needs to wait and see. Your company has yet to clarify its profit model. Isn't it too much to suddenly invest 140 million? Lu Xiaoyang felt that these people's questions were reasonable. Every word they said was like a knife stabbing into his heart. What you guys are asking is exactly what I want to ask my boss. But my boss is unreasonable. Thank you for your concern for our company. But President Chen has his own considerations. As employees, what we should do is follow President Chen's instructions and cooperate with the Chinese Language Association to hold this conference. As for your questions, I'll answer them when President Chen is free to come to Beijing. After Lu Xiaoyang finished speaking, he turned around and ran away. Don't bother with me, I want some peace and quiet. The press conference came to an end after Lu Xiaoyang ran away. Almost at the same time, a new round of press releases swept the internet. 100 million grand prize. Shocking your eyeballs. Chen Guang's move is extraordinary. What an incredible prize pool. Is the almighty Superman trying to set off a craze for foreign language learning? What does he want to do? Let the investors cry, let the onlookers cheer. Even if it's just an academic forum, I want it to be earth-shattering. Is this the motto of Brother Almighty Chen Guang? With such a crazy business brain, Chen Guang will definitely fail miserably this time. The hidden crisis under the prosperous appearance of Tianguang Brokerage is just a rookie in the business world. The Tangjie Fund, which has never failed in its investments, will suffer heavy losses. A super tycoon from Wuxia. He made the World Language Conference shine with unprecedented brilliance. A genius or a madman? How far can Chen Guang go on his unconventional road to fame? The Wuxia language world, which had already been blown into the sky, was even more blown up this time. Wang Jiaqing, the doctoral supervisor of the Capital University of Foreign Studies, said, Chen Guang's actions can bring unprecedented attention to the language world. On behalf of the Wuxia language world, I express my gratitude to him for his contribution. As for him participating in the competition, I'll give him 2 words, hehe. Gao Zhida, the dean of the School of Foreign Languages at Donghua Normal University and a well-known senior expert both at home and abroad, was even more blunt. Some people use the hype they learned from other places on academics, which is a stain to the entire academic world. He makes the serious subject of linguistics stink. In fact, he's just a clown trying to impress the public. 100 million grand prize? On behalf of all students interested in linguistics, I thank him for his generosity, said Powell Bryan, a master of linguistics from Harvard. Will Bartz from Oxford wrote on his Twitter, my most respected friend, Butler Guy, has already set off from Istanbul. This true genius who is obsessed with learning can't sit still this time. Of course, I'm also preparing to participate in the competition. Although I'm definitely no match for Mr. Guy, how can I not go and experience such a grand event? The Twitter comments of these well-known scholars were even more lively. Arrogant Wuxia person. I've heard of him. He's the holder of the airline's Hero Medal. I recognize his contribution to the aviation industry, but in terms of linguistics, he's just a ridiculous clown. He'll pay for his ignorance and arrogance. But maybe he was doing charity from the beginning? This incredible explosive news not only swept across Wuxia in an instant, but even countless foreign media outlets followed up and reported on it at the same time. Even though it was early in the morning over there and people had not woken up yet, they could not stop this news from exploding on the internet. There was no need for any deliberate publicity. As high as 100 million yuan, or 45 million US dollars, just as Chen Guang thought. This prize pool was enough to explode. This number of prize pools may not have broken the records of many competitions in human history. After all, the prize pool of Dota 2's Seattle International Invitational Tournament had reached a terrifying level of 20 million US dollars this year, not to mention the prize pool of the UEFA Champions League. But this competition was not the Dota Champions Shield, which required many people to go through a long period of effort and preparation to compete. It was also not the Champions League, which had extremely high viewership ratings and huge amounts of advertising fees, sponsorship fees, and live broadcast licensing fees as prize money. This was just a small competition in the World Language Conference, which was not particularly valued. The prize money was not distributed to the large number of participating teams, but directly to the individual. The individual prize money for the champion was as high as 50 million yuan, more than $7 million US. Such an exaggerated amount of prize money was enough to make the whole world excited. The foreign friends did not care who paid the prize money. They only knew that the prize money was so high that no one could refuse it. As for the initiator of the whole thing, it only took him 30 minutes to finish the paper in front of him. He was ready to hand it in and leave. Seeing Qin Guang stand up, the invigilator sitting on the podium, who had been staring at him, raised his eyelids and said mockingly. He thought to himself that young people nowadays were like this. They became arrogant when they had money, and they didn't care about their studies anymore. They felt that the courses in the university were enough. This guy thought that it didn't matter even if he failed the course. He had money anyway, and he could ask the university to give him a break. To be honest, he really could do it. Sigh, it's still depressing to think about it. Forget it, you're Qin Guang. You're good, I can't afford to mess with you. As for the possibility that Qin Guang had already finished the paper, the invigilator did not even consider it. What a joke, it would be impossible to finish the environmental impact assessment paper in half an hour. Just those few essay questions alone would take you an hour to write. Even those top students would have to write until their hands were sore during the 2.5-hour exam, okay? You only had half an hour, what can you write? As long as you don't give me a blank paper, I have to thank you for giving me face. However, when the divine light of new science put the paper in front of him, he realized that he was wrong, ridiculously wrong. Not only did this guy not hand in a blank paper, but the paper was densely filled with words. Was he writing a web novel? Was he writing nonsense? That's right. That must be it. Let me see your essay questions. The doctoral invigilator continued to look down. In less than a minute, he suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the door. It was as if countless bells were ringing in his head at the same time, and his ears were buzzing non-stop. He almost wanted to directly kneel down. Crazy, completely crazy. Psst. What the hell is going on? The prodigy had been gone for 5 minutes, but in the eyes of the invigilator, his godlike silhouette was still standing there. His back was shining with a dazzling brilliance that made people want to worship him. The invigilator wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. Damn, an undergraduate student answering an essay question on the Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessment actually made me, a doctoral student, want to kneel down after reading one question? Unbelievable. But what he wrote really makes sense, I can't believe it. How on earth did you manage to write such a thorough explanation on the examination paper? You're even more profound than my mentor. Also, did you install a small electric motor on your hand? You wrote so many words in half an hour? A humanoid printer. The invigilator was not wrong. The strongest environmental impact assessment master in history, coupled with Qin Guang's invincible Qilin arm, could answer questions so quickly, so domineering, so unreasonable and so unreasonable. Old Master Guang was now walking alone on campus, leaving only the legend of the prodigy in the invigilator's heart. He did not dare to return to his dormitory, afraid of the 3 frogs in the well who persevered in dragging him down and boosting others' morale while belittling his own. Anyway, you won't believe anything I say, and you can't stop me anyway. It's better to reminisce than to see each other. When the old man succeeds in ascending to the throne and sits on the throne of the Emperor of Language, he'll return home in glory and experience the worship of you mortals. My heart aches for your menisci. I'll probably need to help you contact a surgeon. He went straight to his rented apartment and took out the book, Environmental Economics, to continue reading. As for the World Language Conference, he was not worried. As the actual controller of the company, he would set the general guidelines and leave the specific operations to Dog 3 and the rest. He was confident in these people's work, even though they were too narrow-minded, like Little Lin and the rest, thinking that he was going to be the one giving away money. But old Master Guang did not mind. You might not believe it, but if it wasn't for the incredible one-line heavenly grail, even I don't believe I could do it. They had the mindset of a normal person and did not know the truth about the heavenly holy grail. Their outlook on life and the world would forever remain at the level of mortals. But it didn't matter. As long as he kept slapping them in the face, they would one day understand his painstaking efforts. After all, once I start slapping people in the face, I don't even care about my own people. I've never let my own people off, and I'm especially excited about slapping my own people. Chapter 845. Around 8 at night, Qin Guang received another call from Lin Jingwei, who refused to give up. Spit it out if you have something to say. I'm super busy right now. He was really busy. Actually, if he had used his faith points sparingly and followed the beggar version, he would have been able to rely on the world in a cup to complete the next 2 courses, including environmental economics. However, the countless painful lessons from before had reminded him not to do anything like a beggar version in the future. That was too much of a scam, especially when it came to using his brain. It was much more dangerous than training his body. The deluxe version this time had disgusted him to the point that he regretted being reincarnated. He had barely managed to survive thanks to the sexy and gentlemanly teacher Tepester. The power and horror of the beggar version was simply unimaginable. He might even fail miserably and die in it. Therefore, the idea of relying on the beggar version to become a beggar prodigy was just a thought. If possible, in the future, he would also like to be a glorious money earner and experience teacher Tepester's supreme VIP-loving teaching. Brother Guang, as your brother, I know you're amazing and that you're always confident in doing things. But brother, listen to my advice. Although 100 million isn't particularly exaggerated, and there's a lot of hype outside, even a broken public account full of zombie fans can be valued at 1.5 billion, that's just hype. You're paying with your own money, are you done? If not, I'm hanging up. Don't. Brother Guang. I've specially looked through the internal information for you. You have the authority to see it yourself. Even in our army, there are true geniuses and pure monsters. There's super intelligence geniuses who are proficient in 29 foreign languages and can read and write 30 to 40 languages. Your bonus is so high that it might even tempt your own people to come out and earn some money. Do you want to kneel? The confident Master Guang smiled. What an ignorant youth. That's just a fraction of what I'm worth. Okay, I got it. Goodbye. He hung up. Master Guang decided to turn off his phone. At this moment, his phone rang again. He picked it up and saw that it was an unknown number. Based on past experience, this should be a call from abroad. To answer or not to answer? This was the question. Forget it, I'll just take it and give it a try. I won't lose anything anyway. Unexpectedly, as soon as the call went through, the first thing that came through was the ear-piercing loud voice of her father, Chen Guoli. Chen Guang stretched out his finger and dug his ear. Oh my God, it was so loud even through the phone. Even his earwax was loosened. You idiot! Are you crazy? I know you have money now, but how can you spend money like this? Are you trying to piss me off? I'm telling you, hurry up and announce to the public that you're joking, or I won't have a son like you. Brother, don't be like this. Let's talk things out. Chen Guoli, no, I'm going to have a heart attack from anger. Seeing that his dad didn't move for a long time, Chen Guang snickered in his heart. His dad must have been shocked by him calling him brother. Dad, aren't you enjoying life abroad? I can't even find you. Why do you care about me? Please let me go. Today, at least 10,000 people made me change my mind, and I almost got dragged into a mental hospital. But these words are like water that has been spilled. Moreover, they were directly announced to the public. How can I take them back? What's done cannot be undone. There's no other way. We woke up early in the morning and it was on the TV. Even the hotel staff was talking about your competition. How can we not see it? If I remember correctly, you basically failed high school English. Even if it's really just a sponsorship, this is a bit too much. Not much, but it's definitely worth it. Your genius brother has a whole set of plans. Your little brother, started from scratch, from nothing to something. Isn't that how I've always been? It's just a mere 100 million. It's not worth mentioning. Chen Guang said casually. Say it again? Dad, I was wrong. Forget it. You've grown up. I can't control you anymore. The key is that your mom also knows about this. And it's impossible for you to win. Just our family's tour guide, no matter how young he is, knows 3 languages. English, German, and French. Just **T with mom. Just say that someone is sponsoring me. Dad, you're more familiar with this than me. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. I still have a makeup test tomorrow. I'm reading. After saying that, Chen Guang did not wait for Chen Guoli to continue lecturing him. He hung up and turned off his phone in one go. Suddenly, the whole world became quiet. The feeling of being the only sober person in the world was great. The next morning, good news finally came from Beijing. The World Language Conference that no one was interested in became a hot topic overnight. In just 2 days, countless domestic and foreign companies gathered in Beijing like wolves smelling the fragrance of meat. They went straight to Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, Lu Xiaoyang, and the others. Although the whole thing seemed extremely messed up, these entrepreneurs had extraordinary confidence in Chen Guang's projects based on his previous successful experience. It did not matter how Brother All-Rounder performed in the competition. But as long as it was a project that he participated in and operated, it would definitely attract enough attention. Of course, there was no doubt that the better Brother All-Rounder performed in the competition, the more popular the competition would be, and the better the sponsorship effect would be. But even if he was eliminated in the first round, the language competition with a prize pool of 100 million was enough to attract attention. Businessmen were after profits. While seeking stability, they were also very gamblers. It was indeed possible to run a business step by step, but at the crucial moment, they had to take a gamble. It depended on who gambled the most and placed the heavier bet. A successful sponsorship could give the brand an unparalleled promotional effect. It was rare for a person to gamble a few times in life. A gamble could turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. These businessmen from all over the country and even the world were willing to bet on Chen Guang. After all, at least until now, those who bet on him had not lost anything. Chen Guang took a simple look at the prices that Yu Hong sent to the sponsors. He did not make any rash decisions. He only set a tone for Yu Hong to reject health products, shampoo, and cosmetics. As long as it had a positive image and the company's reputation was reliable, he would accept it from whoever offered the highest price. Of course, the scope of this sponsorship was limited to this competition and not his own personal endorsement contract. He was quite satisfied with the final price that was negotiated. The naming rights of the king was won by Demi Mobile at a high price of 40 million. The other 3 secondary sponsorships were all settled at a price of 10 million. They were Bubo Lighter, Ricky Motors, and Uniqlo Retail. This price did not seem high. It was incomparable to the 200 million title sponsorship fees of ace variety shows like The Voice of China. But on second thought, how many episodes did The Voice of China have in a season? How long would it be broadcast on television? How many images and video messages would be left behind? The competition segment of the World Language Conference would at most last 3 to 4 days. It would be over once the competition was over. In such a short period of time, with a relatively concentrated burst of information, to be able to get such a price and earn a total sponsorship income of 70 million was already an exaggeration. Not bad. Keep up the good work. We can also negotiate for the broadcasting rights. Don't go too low. We have to make money this time. Chen Guang hung up and looked at the Azure Starry Sky app on his phone. There was new news. The day before yesterday's Principles of Chemical Engineering had passed. 83 points. Although it was not as exaggerated as the full score of 4 points in modern chemistry, the old man did not disgrace the title of the Sharpening Gun King. On the other end, Yu Hong sighed in his heart and agreed. This boss of ours is really hard to please. The total investment of 140 million had already been made. The advertising sponsorship fees had been earned by the four spendthrifts of 63 million. It was already a fool's dream to think of using the broadcasting rights and other profits to recoup the cost. How could there be so many spendthrifts in this world? Just now, Brother Little Chong said that he has bought out the domestic online broadcasting rights. Moreover, it will be broadcasted in Brother Guang's own live broadcast room. The gifts from the audience will also be given to Brother Guang. He has singled out a price of 20 million. If the actual audience during the live broadcast of the finals exceeds 15 million, he will increase the price to 30 million. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyang suddenly whispered into Yu Hong's ear. Yu Hong's eyes twitched. There really seems to be spendthrifts. Chapter 846. Chen Guang was rather satisfied with Tianguang Brokerage's efficiency. Just like many of the previous events, the World Language Conference this time had also happened in a hurry. To be able to finalize the contract with the Wuxia Language Association in such a short period of time, change the prize pool as he wished, and now, to be able to come up with advertising sponsorship income that he was rather satisfied with in just half a day, they had done a rather perfect job. If he had to do all these things himself, just the thought of it made him feel that it was a beautiful picture. That was the good thing about his brother having people under him. While his underlings outside were discussing about a huge project worth tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, the mastermind and initiator behind the scenes, Master Guang himself was sitting in the classroom, scratching his head as he did his test paper. Without going through the special training of the world in a cup, he had to force himself to sharpen his spear at the last minute. Sure enough, the difficulty level was extremely high. In this unlucky environmental economics, how could there be any major principles? It was all concepts that had to be memorized. Throughout the entire process, only the last question was a calculation question related to the trading of pollutant discharge permits. The rest of the questions had to be memorized. However, there was a saying that went, "Don't ask for high marks, just ask for a passing grade." As the sharpening king of his generation, although he had to scratch his head throughout the exam, it was not a problem for him to fill up the paper. Whether it was right or wrong was another matter altogether. At the very least, the paper looked full of words, which would give him a lot of face when he said it out loud. It would not be a problem for him to get 60 marks. After hovering between life and death in the examination hall for a whole 2 hours, Master Guang finally handed in his test paper with a red face. It was not that he had blushed because the invigilator was pretty, but that he had been scratching his head the entire time. It was similar to when he had just finished a mock exam in his 3rd year of high school. It was definitely a sign that he had overused his brain. However, Chen Guang did not feel uncomfortable with this. Instead, he was secretly delighted. After all, the warm feeling in his stomach was especially comfortable. I don't know how other people train their inner strength. Are they all like me? When I'm concentrating on something else, the little mouse formed by the inner strength will jump out and stroll around nonstop. I keep feeling that the little mouse is getting stronger every day, but no matter how carefully I examine it, I can't seem to figure out why. It's very strange. This can't be a psychological effect, right? He remembered that Wang Lin had occasionally mentioned that when martial artists cultivated their inner strength, after their qi sense had taken shape, all that was left was to persevere and grind. Every day, they would meditate and circulate their qi sense, allowing it to circulate in their body. Apart from that, they had to maintain the training of their physical body, and they could not be lazy. Practicing martial arts was like rowing a boat against the current. If you did not advance, you would fall behind. Other than that, although martial artists did not need to strictly control their diet like bodybuilders, it was necessary for them to consume a large amount of food every day. While taking in food, he also needed to maintain a high intensity of exercise to strengthen and maintain the level of his physical body. This was to coordinate with his inner strength and qi sense to improve together. He had to cultivate both the inside and outside of his body. He couldn't lose balance in any aspect. Only with internal and external coordination would one be able to display the greatest strength when fighting with others. Chen Guang felt that what Wenwen said sounded very reasonable, but when it came to himself, it was completely different. To be honest, it seemed that he had never deliberately trained his physical body. He had never thought about the painting volume, a peerless godly martial art that was regarded as the most precious treasure by countless people. Instead, he relied on the opportunism of the world in the cup all the way, completely saving the painstaking effort that others needed to train for years in the winter and summer. Now that his physical body had reached perfection, he was even more lazy. If he could drive, he would not walk. If he could not move, he did not want to move at all. The only thing that was similar to ordinary martial artists was that as his physical body evolved, his appetite became more and more exaggerated. Anyway, the school cafeteria lady and the owner of the breakfast shop downstairs wanted to call the police several times. However, his physical body had never shown any signs of degeneration. If he did not learn or train, he would not be able to, but his body was just so hard. There was no other way. Those who had a cup were just that confident. Forget it, it seemed pointless to keep thinking about these useless things. Since he could focus on other things and let his inner strength grow naturally, this was definitely a good thing and not a bad thing. Old Master Guang, who was self-taught, did not know that this phenomenon of his was enough to make Wenwen go crazy with jealousy. It was true that Wenwen was a genius. It was also true that her skills had improved rapidly recently. However, it was only recently that she had become particularly powerful. Before that, she had to train hard every day without rest. Compared to Chen Guang, who could increase his inner strength without doing anything that had nothing to do with martial arts, the former Wenwen was a far cry from him. Tomorrow, he would be taking the final exam, environmental politics. By then, he would have saved up close to 1,000,000 faith points. Although he still would not have the chance to experience the Supreme VIP, he would just have to make do with the deluxe version. When he had saved up 2 million, he would look for Teacher Teepister and discuss the philosophy of life with him. In any case, the makeup exam for the super zombie disease for the 5 consecutive courses ended here. Now that there was nothing to worry about, he felt relaxed. He was not afraid that the 3 idiots in the dormitory would keep making a fuss about the world's language club. Now that he had nothing to worry about, he wanted to do something to pass the time. Then, should he ask the 3 of them to soar on the stairway to heaven? Dota's national server had been silent for a very long time. It was time to stir up a storm of blood once again, and let those mortals see the power of a god with 4 legs. He whistled and sang as he walked in the direction of the dormitory. Not to mention, there were enthusiastic fans who came up to him from time to time to ask for his autograph. Now that he was free, old Master Guang did not reject these overly enthusiastic fans. It was only limited to female fans. Sooner or later, I will sign all the girls in the school. When that time comes, naturally no one will stop me on the road. As a celebrity, how could he effectively avoid the annoying and awkward situation of being stopped by people for autographs on the street? Very simple. Make my autograph completely worthless. I might as well open an online shop to sell autographs. Anyway, my Kirin arm autographs are fast, and I guarantee that I will personally sign it. I will not cheat anyone. $1 for one, and the larger the quantity, come quickly. Of course, there would definitely be people who didn't like him, such as the guys from the foreign language faculty. But I'm sorry, I have already mastered the ultimate skill. My eyes, ears, and nose will automatically block out the haters. You don't even have the right to leave your name. If the world we live in is a novel, then you guys are not even considered passers-by. That's too sad. Where is Chen Guang? Hand him over. He dilly-dallied all the way up the stairs. When he finally reached the door of the dormitory, there was such a sudden shout from inside, causing him to tremble. This shout was extremely sharp and carried an unsuppressible anger and fury. It was like the roar of an evil god from the depths of hell, making people who heard it feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. It was rather terrifying. Assassins! Guards! Guards, come and protect me. What am I afraid of? I can fight so well now, and I have hidden bodyguards by my side at all times. I also have Lin Jingwei, the #1 prince of the country, squatting in the dormitory. How could there be an assassin coming to my dormitory in broad daylight to cause trouble? Besides, the voice sounded like a girl. Don't worry, the sky won't fall. Therefore, he opened the door of the dormitory carelessly, wanting to see which blind female fan actually chased into his dormitory. You can chase stars, but don't disturb the normal life of your idol. It's a bit too much to come directly to my door. Moreover, if you want to see me, you can leave your photo and contact information for Lin Jingwei and the others. If you're really so beautiful that you can cause the downfall of a city, I'll contact you later since we're not unreasonable people. It's too much of you to be so mean to my buddy. But when he opened the door, he immediately wanted to turn around and run. The beauty of the girl inside was really above average. Unfortunately, it was someone he was familiar with, the kind that he was very familiar with. Moreover, it was someone that Chen Guang had been avoiding recently, not wanting to see at all. He stood at the door like a dumb goose, looking at the fierce face inside. She wanted to eat him, she wanted to bite him to death. Although she did bite him, it wasn't that kind of bite this time. She really wanted to eat him alive. I'm as stiff as a horse. Why can't I even recognize Sister Tang Ying's voice? I have to go to the hospital to have my ears checked. No, even if I go to the hospital, I will still bump into her. This is fate. He really couldn't blame his ears for being deaf. It was purely because he had been asking for people's autographs on the way here. Plus, Tang Ying's tone of voice was not the same as usual, and there was a door between them. In short, he could hide from the monk, but he couldn't hide from the temple. At this moment, the person who was pinching her ear was Bai Nyangzi. Heroine, spare me. I really don't know where Brother Guang has been these 2 days. He's been hiding from us. Poor Bai Fan was curled up in the corner, wailing at the top of his lungs, sounding very miserable. However, this young man was actually so principled when it came to major issues. He didn't betray himself, which was really surprising. His unyielding spirit was so touching that it made people cry. On the other side, Lin Jingwei and Xiong, who were supposed to form a united front with Bai Nyangzi, were curled up in the corner of the upper bunk, trembling. There was no doubt that she was extorting a confession. Hearing the door open, she suddenly turned around and saw Chen Guang turning around to run. She released the hand that was pinching the poor Bai Nyangzi's ear and quickly chased after Chen Guang. I've searched far and wide for you, but today, I've finally found you. Chen Guang turned around again, smiled stiffly, and waved his hand. Hi, Sister Tang Ying, long time no see? Tang Ying glared at him. Long time no see my ass. I just saw you a few days ago. Tell me, what the hell is going on in that head of yours? Such a big decision, so much money, and you actually spent it like this? You actually didn't ask for my opinion, the vice president's opinion. I just called you, and you actually turned off your phone. Pretending to disappear, huh? Why don't you make a living person disappear again? Tang Ying couldn't help but be angry. Recently, she had been busy with the conclusion of her own research project. She shut herself in the medical university's research lab, so busy that she didn't even have time to breathe. Fortunately, she had concluded the project this afternoon. Only then did she have some free time to breathe in the fresh air outside. She hadn't even warmed her seat in the hospital office when the news of Qinguang and Tianguang agencies sponsoring the World Language Conference for 140 million renminbi in one go stunned her. Chapter 847. Although Chen Guang held 80% of the shares in Tianguang brokerage and had absolute control, Chen Guang had invested $20 million in the company. But at the very least, our brother invested $20 million in this company. Now that the Tangjia Foundation owns 20% of the shares and is the company's second largest shareholder, he should at least have the right to give his opinion, right? Moreover, wasn't it obvious that he was fooling around by spending money like that? Tang Ying called Chen Guang first, and Master Guang, who was taking an environmental economics exam, naturally switched off his phone. Then, Tang Ying called Yu Hong and a few other middle-level executives. Although Yu Hong and the others disagreed with Chen Guang's crazy decision, As employees of Qinguang, even Yu Hong, who was sent by Tang Xiaokai, understood that he shouldn't get involved in the shareholders' dispute, especially since the relationship between the two shareholders was a little weird. It was like a love-hate relationship. That was the shuraba, and whoever touched it would die. Therefore, in the face of Tang Ying's doubts, the experienced staff also pushed the blame to Mr. Qin, who was a man of his word, and did not want their own opinions to be mixed in. Now that the matter had been announced and Qinguang's attitude was unnegotiable, employees like them naturally had to follow the company's strategy. Tang Ying was rebuffed by Yu Hong and the others, so she called Tang Xiaokai to ask her useless brother what was going on in his head and why he didn't stop Qinguang's crazy actions. In the end, Tang Xiaokai was even crazier than Qinguang. His exact words were, "Sis, I told you long ago that you don't have to worry about this. The money I invested back then was for him to squander, and now that he's throwing in even more, I can't interfere with his decision. Honestly, I think it's better for him to squander it all as soon as possible. That way, I can relax. I can't tell you more about this, but I really can't interfere with any of his decisions." Tang Ying had promised Tang Xiaokai that she would take good care of the 20 million investment, but now, Tang Xiaokai had also given up. At that time, she was helpless and angry, so she went straight to Qinguang's school. Fortunately, he did not come here in vain. At least he managed to stop that person. If I don't tell you today, you won't know why flowers are so red. Do you know that it's hard to start a business and harder to keep it? Have you forgotten the days when you were dirt poor? How can you spend money like this? If you really squander it all, what will you do in the future? Going to open the net again? Tang Ying angrily stood in front of Qinguang with her hands on her hips. Do you know why I came looking for you? Come on, you have to give me an explanation, don't you? Qinguang scratched his head. Sister Tang Ying, I really don't know how to explain this to you. But please believe me, I'm really not messing around. I have a complete set of plans and logic for this matter. I guarantee that I won't lose anything. Look at me, look at my sincere eyes. Unlike other masters, when others questioned him, Qinguang just shrugged and curled his lips, acting like a scoundrel. I'm just that arrogant. I'm rich and willful. I didn't spend your money, so what can you do about it? However, he couldn't do that in front of Tang Ying, because in a sense, she did contribute a portion of the money he spent. Although it wasn't much, 20% was still more than 20 million, wasn't it? Tang Ying curled her lips. Sincere, my ass. I know that you've never made a loss when you've done similar projects in the past, but you don't have to set the rewards so high. That's 100 million in cash. You've also invested in a movie, and now the entire company's funds are invested in it. Were you the god of fortune in your past life? At this moment, Bai Nyangzi pounced from behind and shouted, Brother Guang, run. I'll hold her back. Chen Guang was overjoyed when he saw him baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. Bai Nyangzi, your sacrifice won't be in vain. I'll promote your book on Weibo later. Knowing that it was difficult to convince Tang Ying, the best way now was to run away and hide from her until the day of the World Language Conference. At that time, the raw rice would become popcorn, and she would have to admit it even if she didn't want to. When he won back the 50 million, he would get some other profits. Even if he didn't make a huge profit, he definitely wouldn't make a loss. At that time, he wouldn't even need to explain to her. She would understand how powerful he was. While Bai Nyangzi was exerting his strength, he would make a move first. Bam! Chen Guang fell to the ground with a thud. If he hadn't restrained his strength fast enough, Bai Nyangzi, who was hugging his leg, would have kicked him to death. D***min. Didn't you say that, Brother Guang, run away quickly and I'll hold her back? Why the hell are you hugging my leg, you bastard? I didn't want the script. Miss Tang, I'll hold him down for you. This bastard is trying to escape again. Brothers, hurry. Bai Nyangzi grabbed Qinguang's leg tightly and shouted back. Lin Jingwei and Xiong Jinke, who were originally shivering in the corner of the wall, got down from the ground and rushed forward as well. Chen Guang pinned the three of them on the ground. You three bitches, I didn't want to use my strength because I was afraid of hurting you. Otherwise, I would have sent you to heaven in minutes. Tang Ying had a hideous smile on her face. She admired Qin Guang's 3 tactful classmates very much. They really deserved to be this guy's roommates. Sure enough, they didn't belong to the same family. All of them were really despicable. She didn't know whether these 3 people were infected by Qin Guang, or the 4 of them were infected by each other. But very good, just what I wanted. After a while, Qin Guang was tied up by a rope that Bai Fan found in his closet. He was firmly tied to the chair and looked at Tang Ying, who was gloating in front of him. Tang Ying waved her hand. I'll have to trouble the 3 of you to leave for a moment. What's going to happen next is a bit 18 forbidden. Miss Tang, what are you? Lin Jingwei's eyelids twitched. Brother Guang is really a walking seducer. I was tortured to death by Gao Yadu, but Brother Guang is actually flirting with every girl he sees. Even now, he still hasn't failed. Bro, you're amazing. What are you thinking about? Don't you know your place? My 18 forbidden is violent and bloody, not erotic. Tang Ying cracked her knuckles. As the chief surgeon, she really did have some strength in her hands. The sound of her knuckles made people's teeth ache. The 3 of them hurriedly ran away with their tails between their legs. Before they closed the door, Lady White added gloatingly, Miss Tang, we've tried to persuade him for a long time, but he just won't listen to us. We weren't lying when we said that we didn't know his whereabouts. Recently, he's been hiding from us like we're thieves. No matter how I think about it, you're probably the only one who can turn his evil thoughts around. What's the point of voting for that stupid language conference? You might as well vote for my movie. Oh, and don't spill blood all over the floor. Otherwise, it'll be hard for us to clean up. Scram. Zhongguang only said one word to Bai Nyangzi. Bai Fan shrunk his neck, closed the door and ran away. All right. Sister Tang Ying, let me go. This matter is already set in stone. There's no point in saying anything now. Let's stop, okay? Chen Guang sighed and turned back to look at Tang Ying. Tang Ying gritted her teeth in anger when she saw how fearless he was. Impossible. You're just giving away money. How can you call this giving away money? I'm sure I'll win the championship. The 50 million prize money is transferred from my left hand to my right hand. It's just for show. Listen to me, the prize pool of 10 million is really too little. Look, if I make it 100 million now, the effect will be great. My dad called me earlier and said that everyone in Europe is talking about this. How much attention is being paid to this? How explosive this topic is. Once the topic is on the rise, the attention will follow. So far, we've already earned more than 60 million from the sponsorship contract we signed. If we add in other things later, I'll win another 50 million. It's really not a loss, okay? Tang Ying looked him up and down for a while. I know your English is good, but what's the use? You're underestimating the heroes of the world. Your opponent in the world's language conference is far beyond your imagination. Chen Guang curled his lips. I'm also far beyond your imagination. Why don't we make a bet? Who wants to bet with you? Anyway, my words are like water that has been splashed. Now that the whole world knows that the prize pool is 100 million, it's too late for me to change my mind. Didn't you say that I can't win? Let's go with the old rules. Make a bet. How about this? If I lose the bet, I'll listen to you in the future. I won't go against whatever you say. In the future, if there's any important decisions in the company, I'll definitely ask for your opinion first. How about it? Tang Ying was a little tempted. She was a little afraid of Qin Guang's unorthodox ways of messing around. Moreover, he was right. The news had already spread all over the world, and many of the contestants had already set off. If Tianguang Brokerage were to stand the whole world up at this time, the company's reputation would be ruined. Even if they didn't go bankrupt, they would have to start anew. Even Qin Guang's reputation would hit rock bottom. His reputation as Tianguang's agent had been destroyed. Actually, she understood all the logic. She didn't really expect Qin Guang to take back his words when she came to look for him today. She probably just wanted to teach him a lesson and let him know that he couldn't do things like this in the future. From the looks of it, the effect was basically achieved. Tang Ying wasn't a completely unreasonable and unruly woman. She knew that it was okay to make a scene, but not too much. As for the bet that Chen Guang mentioned, it sounded a little tempting. It was a great opportunity to settle things once and for all. Subconsciously, she wanted to agree to it, but then she remembered the painful lesson from the last bet and became a little hesitant. Sister Tang Ying, I don't know what's wrong with me, but whenever I see you, I get addicted to gambling. What bet? My mouth can't come out. You tormented me on the plane last time. Oops. Tang Ying thought about it. That seemed to be easier than talking. A gentleman's word. Even 4 horses can't catch up. Watching Tang Ying's car disappear into the distance, Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally dealt with it. 5 enemies, 5 bounties. There's a new name on my blacklist of face slapping. Sister Tang Ying, you'll definitely pay a painful price for doubting me. Speaking of which, it was strange that he and Sister Tang Ying seemed to have really become gambling friends. Brother Guang, we were wrong, please forgive us. Get lost, I don't have friends like you. Tell me honestly, why is there hemp rope in your wardrobe? How did you tie me up so skillfully just now? Did you join some weird circle on Weibo? No, absolutely not. I just watched a few videos. Chen Guang hammered the 3 of them hard, finally appeasing his anger at being betrayed. I have to go to Beijing the day after tomorrow. I'll leave the roll call to you guys, okay? Lin Jingwei, to be honest, the teachers should know about that stupid competition of yours. Who are you trying to fool by asking us to answer on your behalf? Don't mind the details, just answer on my behalf as a form of respect for the teachers. Chapter 848. Lin Jingwei didn't know when Gaoya became a swordsman, but it just so happened that Wen hadn't had time to play games for a long time. The 4 people in the dorm were Master C, Grandpa C, and Gaoya, so they could form a 5-man team. Chen Guang's rank in the main account group was too high, and he couldn't form a team with these people. He had no choice but to register a new account. He hadn't done a live broadcast for a long time, so he decided to do it again. He changed the name of his room to The Strongest Thigh in the Universe. One god brings 4 legs to roam the fish pond. Although the name of his room was extremely arrogant, it had to be said that no one actually dared to criticize him. The reason was simple. It wasn't certain if there were aliens in the universe, but Dota fish ponds should only exist on Earth. In addition, before he was defeated by others, he was indeed the world's #1 player. His achievements weren't just for show. They were witnessed by countless players all over the world. In the Throne Challenge, which he paid for with his own money, he stepped on the heads of top experts and young geniuses one after another, proudly ascending to the top. There was no doubt about it. Although he was a god in this version, with the end of the invitational tournament, there was a big earthquake in the Dota professional circle. There were new geniuses rising, and there were also players like Tony Big Moo and Sorceress retiring. The era of the strong was always changing. However, no one could ignore the absolute dominance that Chen Guang showed in the Throne Challenge. He wasn't a professional player, but he was better than professional players. Therefore, it wasn't wrong to say that he was the strongest thigh in the universe. Xiao Tsong, who was busy promoting the online live broadcast of the World Language Conference, suddenly heard that Chen Guang suddenly started a live broadcast, and he was overjoyed. Sure enough, this bro's ideas seemed to come from slapping people's thighs. He seemed to be very casual, but in fact, he was quite serious. He didn't even need me to say anything, and he opened his own live broadcast room to warm up. That's awesome, brother. It wasn't a waste of my 30 million staircase price. Xiao Tsong happily rushed to Chen Guang's live broadcast, wanting to see what this most unprofessional Chinese streamer was broadcasting. 30 seconds later, he couldn't take it anymore. C, the invincible brother Guang, to think you would have such a day. Retribution. The current Chen Guang was miserable, truly miserable. One god carrying 4 legs looked very domineering and comfortable, but in fact, the pressure was quite great at times. Although it was a smurf account, the opponents he was matched with were basically all good players. The difficulty of winning was not just for show. Among the other 4 teammates, 3 of them were experienced fishermen who were worth 4,000 points, but one of them was a beginner who had just gotten his hands on a deep-sea lanternfish that were worth 800 points. Their losses were as accurate as clockwork. Wherever they went, they would die. Elegant corpses were left all over the map. That was not all. What was even more infuriating was that when she fought in a group, she relied on shouting the entire time. However, she only shouted and did not press the keyboard. Unfortunately, they didn't know which brand of chili sauce she bought her mic from, and it would explode at the slightest provocation. Chen Guang and the others couldn't bear it. Their ears were ringing from her roars, but they didn't see her use any skills. Save him. Help. Lin Jingwei, save me. He's coming. Sheep him. Sheep. Which skill is sheep? It's the pig transformation. You pig. He's a pig. Why did you say sheep? That's because Daddy Blizzard didn't give us the copyright. Alright, the 3 of us will give it to him together. It was supposed to be a great opportunity to counterattack, but Elegant did not use any skills before she died. Lin Jingwei, who had risked his life to help, was killed. Chen Guang, who had landed from the TP position, was also hit in the head by 10,000 skills from the 5 opponents. He was unable to move until he died. Everyone was soaked in the spring together, and Chen Guang finally had time to explain. In fact, with his reaction speed he could have dodged the opponent's stomps. However, he was stunned by Elegant's deafening explosion mic. His hand shook, and the clone axe was released too early. Then, his face was covered in fireworks. The bullet screen immediately took off. Brother Almighty, this is what you get. Bringing a girl is going to get what you deserve. Previous poster, I think this girl is Brother Almighty's classmate's girlfriend. I don't care. He deserves it if he's brought by a girl. Pigeon King has regressed. He would never have made a mistake like dodging and stomping before. Who told you to become a pigeon? You deserve it if you don't practice for 3 days. Using such a crappy mic to shout at a girl's ear, I feel like anyone who tries will die. F*CKU. He has too many die-hard fans like you, that's why he's so arrogant. He's been pigeon dodging for more than a month. He's always messing around and doing nothing. We fans have all abandoned him. That's right. Kill Pigeon King. The admin has banned the gift spam. You guys are so passionate about it. Are you going to watch Brother Almighty's competition later? Yes. Why not? Watch him embarrass himself? No, I'm his hardcore fan. Brother Almighty is invincible. I'll love you even if you die. Weren't you trolling him just now? You can be a fan too. Who asked him to be so good at dying? In any case, I don't care what he broadcasts. I like watching him win and watching him act cool. Previous poster, I also like Brother Almighty's style. I especially like seeing people annoyed by him but unable to get rid of him. They even get pissed off by him. But I'd rather watch him play the piano. I'm a music student. I admire him the most. Is the one who's learning the piano a girl? Yes, so what? Do you know each other? My body is reserved for my beloved brother Guang. Don't. Look at how he's been dying recently. How can Pigeon King deserve this? Girl, you have to treat him like this. Xiao Song was amused by the cuteness of Chen Guang and his classmates in the live broadcast. Looking at the bullet screen that was flying all over the screen, and looking at the endless GIFs in the live broadcast room, as well as the number of viewers that had already reached more than 800,000 and was approaching 1 million, she felt very happy. Chen Guang's live broadcast room was different from other live broadcasts. The other live broadcasts all displayed the popularity value. It looked like a few 100,000 to 1 or 2 million was very impressive, but that was actually a figure that the live broadcast platform had tampered with. It would be good if the real number was 1/5. Displayed as the popularity value was clearly telling others that it was not the number of viewers, but a popularity parameter weighted by the number of viewers and other indicators. Don't accuse me of falsifying the popularity value. In the huge Bamboo live broadcast, and even in the entire live broadcast world, Chen Guang's live broadcast room that directly displayed the real number of viewers was probably the only one. Now it looked like there were more than 800,000 viewers, But that was because Chen Guang had only started for about 10 minutes. Didn't you see that the number of viewers increased by more than 10,000 to 20,000 per minute? When the news of his live broadcast broke out in other information channels, such as Weibo, there would be another round of blowouts. Judging from Xiaozong's professional experience, if Chen Guang were to broadcast for 4 hours, the number of viewers would definitely easily exceed 3 million. This was just a sudden idea of his to start a live broadcast, without any warm-up effect. This was the power of China's strongest live broadcast host, Chen Guang. This was also the reason why when a celebrity broadcast, the number of viewers could easily crush ordinary live broadcast hosts. Because these celebrities had their own appeal, and what they could bring to the live broadcast platform was more traffic that originally drifted away from the platform. For example, the current live broadcast audience, for the time being, the game fans had the upper hand. After all, many of the audience on the live broadcast platform were originally game players, but as time passed, his fans from other aspects would come one after another. The most amazing thing about Chen Guang was that no matter what he did, it was at the top level. It didn't matter even if people didn't understand the game, they could always see him pressing his opponents to the ground and rubbing them, right? In addition, the biggest advantage of these diverse fans was that those who liked music came to Bamboo Live broadcast because of Chen Guang. After Chen Guang went off the live broadcast, they might go to the singing area. Those who liked darts, wrist exercises, or racing might go to the sports area and watch the sports programs that Bamboo had the copyright for. In short, he was a phenomenal online celebrity. Although the time of his fame was extremely short, it was not by chance, but because he had the ability that exceeded the limits of human beings. As long as he wanted to be popular, it was inevitable that he would be popular. He had a variety of skills, and while he brought himself a large number of fans, his entire platform could also hitch a ride on his car, producing a chain reaction. Crazy money was never lost on him, it was only a steady profit. Although this master was called Pigeon Wang Guang by others, it didn't mean that others liked this kind of thing. The bullet screen was right. Compared to other anchors, Chen Guang was really a super-powered pigeon. As a live anchor, he was completely unprofessional. Except for the time when he was breaking through the Sword Tower stairway, he had never broadcasted consecutively. Every time he broadcasted, it was either he had some big action, or he would have a sudden burst of activity like he was crazy, and then he would run away after broadcasting. Xiaozong gritted his teeth in hatred, but he couldn't do anything to him. Not only could he not deduct his salary like other live anchors, but he also had to coax him and treat him like a master. Regarding Chen Guang's pigeon, not only was Chang Xiaozong particularly helpless, but his various live broadcast fans were also exceptionally distressed. It was not the first time that the black screen sent the Buddha jumps over the wall. But then again, although this guy was a superpowered pigeon, his popularity was getting higher and higher. Just like today, he broadcasted without any warning, without any pre-hype, and his popularity was still so high. Therefore, Xiaozong was simply overjoyed. He was even more looking forward to the live broadcast of next week's competition. Brother Guang is awesome, I'm relying on you to fly. Xiaozong was amused. Her fingers started to slide, and she kept sending the gifts to him. The Buddha jumps over the wall soup was thrown out. In just 5 to 6 minutes, he had spent 200,000 yuan on Chen Guang's live broadcast. Whether the gifts he gave to others were real money or data created by the backstage, it depended on the benevolent and the wise. But Chen Guang's live broadcast was different. The live broadcast platform did not take a single cent, but Chen Guang got all of it. This meant that Xiaozong had directly spent 200,000 yuan on Chen Guang in these 5 minutes. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.